This is Big D and Shade from Takoyaki Anime.
Yo.
And today we are back with episode 34 of Monthly Ketchup. We will be talking about our initial thoughts for the winter season of 2017.
Yes. Well, mostly your initial thoughts for him, because I don't have a whole lot of thoughts for him, because unfortunately, I couldn't find a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody didn't tell me that they're on Amazon Prime. Just gonna point that out. Just gonna say that.
Yeah. So yes, Anime Strike from Amazon has been shut down at the beginning of the year. They've transferred all of their older shows that they had during that service over to Anime Strike. Over to Amazon Prime. And then the new shows that they had the licenses for, they just went ahead and dumped that onto Amazon Amazon Prime. One thing I'm curious about is if they're still in the anime game, because if they are, then that would be cool, because all of the other shows that they'll be picking up will just be automatically added to Amazon Prime.
Which I think is way better.
Yes, I really hope that they still keep that up, because one is cheaper, but then also...
That's the only problem I had with them, is they were using two services. You had to have Prime and Strike in order to actually watch, and it's horrible. But now if they just limited that to just Prime, still not great, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah. One thing that I'm really worried about is if this is just their last season, because they decided to cancel it and they already had the licenses for these new seasons, so they just dumped it on that service, and then they're like, okay, we're done for now. I really hope that they still are getting more licenses, because it's good to have these big companies in the industry. So
I don't know about that.
Well, it's good, because it's right now, 90% of shows are legally streamable somewhere. So
yeah, except Seven Deadly Sins for some reason.
Yeah, for some reason that show's not there. I don't know why Crunchyroll didn't pick it up, or who snatched it from Crunchyroll, or
I don't know, but either way, I mean, I feel like we had, before Amazon got into this whole spiel, I feel like we had a really good thing going on with Crunchyroll and Funimation. The fact that these two joined forces and they were sharing the property rights to these, Crunchyroll doing just the purely, subtitled ones, and Funimation doing the, dubbed ones. And I think there was a really good thing going on with them. And then Amazon just kind of butted in the middle of it. Because I really feel like most of the titles that we were seeing was either at Funimation or Crunchyroll. And then Amazon just decided to be like, no, we want a piece of that.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as I am okay with Amazon Prime being now the sole provider of that, I guess, or it's on Prime instead of on Strike, I kind of feel like if this was their last season, I'm okay with that. Because then I'm hoping that it goes back to the way it was, where Funimation and Crunchyroll were picking up the bulk of it. And it was only an occasional rare one that slipped through, that some odd one would go to another, some other one. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, you got it covered between Funimation and Crunchyroll.
Well, I feel like because I'm trying to think, did they team up because Amazon was in the
No, because they were teamed up before then, weren't they?
Because when did they team up? Did they team up in the middle of last year? Because I think they teamed up in the middle. If they teamed up at the beginning of the year, then that would be directly because of Amazon, because Anime Strike started in January, I think, and they lasted for a year.
It started later than that, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so I think that's in response to.
Hold on, I gotta look that up now. When did Amazon Strike? If I could spell right. When did Amazon Strike start?
Yeah, I want to say they started in January.
Amazon Strike. Okay, yeah, no, it says, well, at least the article that this was about was on January 12th of last year. But I swear that Crunchyroll and Funimation teamed up way before them.
Okay. Because then they also could have had industry knowledge, because normally
No. See, okay, Amazon Strike started January. of 2017. Crunchyroll teamed up with Funimation September of 2016.
Okay.
Months before that happened.
Okay.
Because I remember reading something about that where someone was saying we literally had now one focal point for our anime, and then all of a sudden Amazon came in and just divided it up again.
I want to say that Crunchyroll and Funimation knew that Amazon was going to get into the thing because maybe they were bidding on shows and they couldn't bid on some because
that was like a season all the way before that though, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
If they started up in January, that means they were already into the winter season of 2017.
Yeah, like they started bidding on it like I'm pretty sure.
But that was before fall season of 2016 happened.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it still takes months and months for these things to go down. So it's really close. Like if it was like a year apart, then I'd be like, okay, Amazon just wanted to kind of jump in. But I feel like they teamed up because Amazon has tons and tons of money. So,
but see, that wouldn't make sense then. Why would they even bother? That's almost like counterproductive in that regards.
So they can handle the load because it's like before Crunchyroll was just subtitles.
But if you're trying to compete with Amazon, I don't even think there's any company out there who could compete with Amazon.
No, so that's why you team up and like join forces because it's like Funimation.
It doesn't even give you that much to choose.
Yeah, so Funimation wasn't doing that well. Like, right, Funimation is we do the DVD sales and the English dubs and the subtitles. And then Crunchyroll is like, we just do subtitles and we sell merchandise. So for them to team up, Funimation's like, okay, cool. Crunchyroll, you do the subtitles and we will do all the dubs. So it's basically like two halves coming together so then they can somewhat kind of compete against all the shows that Amazon was taking up.
See, I don't even feel like that's the way though. Because if Amazon's still taking all of that, I don't think if you're knowing how big Amazon is, it would almost seem like you're trying to throw a pebble into an ocean.
Yeah, and it's like if you think about it, like a lot of the good shows that came out, including this season, Amazon has them because they have the money.
Well, I know.
So I feel like Crunchyroll and Funimation just always kept getting outbid because it's like freaking Made in Abyss. Amazon had that. Everybody was like, "Oh my god, this is like the greatest show of the season," but barely anybody can watch it because Amazon has it. And
I don't. Now that they've discontinued that, I think that'll change a little, but I still don't think that'll change a lot.
I hope if they still are trying to do it, the people who are actually behind it, Sentai Filmworks, I hope they just move everything over to High Dive because High Dive is High Dive looks very promising. They're starting to pick up a ton of old school shows. I feel like High Dive started and they're like, well, Crunchyroll, Funimation, and Amazon, y'all fight over all the current stuff. We'll start bringing in the old school stuff and build our own audience. And like every now and then we'll like snatch one of the low hanging series because y'all don't care about it, but we'll still be kind of relevant because we have like. We'll still, like, some of the licenses get shared. So they're like, okay, we can get a share of some of these shows. But if they want to have an exclusive, then they're like, we're not going to fight over it because we're new, we're small, and we're going to build a completely different audience. So hopefully, because Amazon is not there.
That's exactly what I was saying, though. It's like Crunchyroll and Funimation, they knew where they were set up, and they were joined because of that, because of how different audiences that they have. Because, I know there are some people who don't like subtitled. They don't want to be able to read the captions all the time they're watching shows. So some people do prefer dubbed. And that's why Crunchyroll has theirs. They have Funimation has theirs. And then High Dive, even they have their own separate one. Yeah. Because they're like, wait, we're going to go to the old school. We're going to go from the way back and bring back classics that people know that just are no longer licensed anymore that we can grab up. Yeah. But then Amazon's just like, you know what? I'm going to bully my way into the center of this, and I'm going to go, give me all that.
They're like, I want
care
this
if it's
show.
Subtitled or dubbed, we're just going to take it. It's mine, And that's why I'm looking at that going, I really feel like Funimation and Crunchyroll had that plan not because of Amazon, but it was just something that happened after Amazon because it completely steamrolled everything. It's literally the Amazon is like the biggest monkey wrench imaginable inside this pretty much perfectly well-oiled machine. We have three spokes on this wheel of sub, dubbed, old, and Amazon's just like, I'm just gonna just jam myself right into the center of this and take all of it.
Yep.
I don't even care.
And then they're like, nobody likes us. I'm gonna leave, and just leaves. And that is, I really hope that next season there isn't like a gap, because I wasn't paying 100% attention to who has all of the shows. I was just like what was it? All I knew is that earlier last year, I could watch some of the shows, but I couldn't find all of them. And at the time, I didn't know that anime strike was a thing. I didn't find out about it till like the spring season. But before that, I still feel like there was kind of like there were some shows that were getting overlooked. One thing that I do want to say is, even though Crunchyroll and Funimation are two different companies, both of them teaming up together and taking over all of the seasonal stuff, I don't like having one company with all the shows. I want competition, because that's benefits the consumer. So,
in a sense, but I think we had a good, because it's not saying just Funimation had all of it, because they didn't. It's not saying Crunchyroll had all of it, because they didn't. Mm-hmm. It was dependent upon what you as the consumer wanted. Do you want the new stuff? Well, if you want the new stuff, it's going to be subtitled. Crunchyroll's going to have it.
Yeah.
If you want to wait on it for a little while, and because you don't like subtitled, you can, then Funimation's going to have it. If you want to watch some of the old stuff, High Dive's going to have it. Mm. So I feel like we had a good mix. We had a good corner market here. We're like, okay, what do you want? If depending on what you want, we know where to send you. You go here, here, or here. And then it's just like Amazon's just like, nope, too bad. I'm taking some of these. Now they're mine. Now you got to come here.
Mm. What? And it's like, yeah, I get that. And like, if I didn't already have Prime, then I would be very upset, and I'd rejoice that like Anime Strike is gone. But I'm still wary. Like, we'll find out next season, like, how everything goes. But for right now, some of the shows are still on Prime, and I already have that. So I'm glad.
I'm still a Prime. I have access to Prime.
Yeah.
And I'm still kind of upset the fact that that's happening, because I know it's cutting some people off from being able to see these shows.
Yeah.
I know that that's happening. I mean, even though it's better now that the fact that they've taken away Strike, because that was a completely separate deal, even onto Prime, and you had to have both, which was just ludicrous.
Yeah.
I still feel like I'm still of the opinion that if Amazon, if they didn't get any more of the licenses, and it just went back to the way it was, I'd be perfectly fine and happy.
Yeah.
If those licenses for like the new shows went back to Crunchyroll for the primary part of that, at least for the new shows coming out for subtitled, and then Funimation got the dubbed versions a little bit later after that, I'd be perfectly fine with that. Mm-hmm. Be like, all right, cool. Now the universe has right again. Now everything has come together the way it should, and everything is right in the world. And Amazon can just go away and just not do that again. Just stay away from it. No. Because I am sure they had a lot of backlash once all that happened.
Yeah. People can, like, that's most likely the reason why they ended it, is because of all of the backlash.
I'm sure.
I need to go back and look to see if Crunchyroll and Funimation had everything before Amazon even started. Because I really feel that they had like 70% of shows, and like that last little 30% nobody had. But
I think they had more than that. I'm not saying they're going to have everything, that they had everything, but I'm pretty sure it was more like not 70, more like 85 to 90% of everything. There was an occasional show in a season that would get missed.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that, but I think it was like an oddball, where it was one of those where you're like looking at going, I'd like to see that, but I could do without it.
Like, I got 30 other shows I could watch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It wasn't nearly as high profile as some of the other ones, because that's what Amazon did. They sniped as many of the high profile ones as they possibly could.
Yeah. One thing that was really funny is I'm not sure if it was the fall season or the summer season, but I went through almost every single show on AnyChart was available for legal streaming. Every single one except for one show. And I felt so bad for that one show. I'm like, nobody wanted you.
Yeah.
Like half the shows are on Amazon, and then the other half are like Crunchyroll and Funimation. Like 1 or 2 are from High Dive, and then this one show is just like, what about me? I'm like, aw.
See, and that's what I get. I think that's kind of the way it was even before Amazon chipped in on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty much where it was at. You would find that 1 or 2 show in a season that would not get caught by either Crunchyroll or Funimation in that regards, so it would just get missed. But everything else they had, and it was all localized depending upon how you wanted to watch it.
Okay.
So I feel like Amazon's just that nosy neighbor that just butted into this wonderful like house party that everyone was having just because the noise was getting too loud. And they're like, no, break it up.
And the money was spilling out into the streets. And they're like, hey.
Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah. Things were interesting last year. Things are changing this year. We shall find out next season where everything's going. If everything's going to continue to go to Amazon Prime or not. We shall find out. But let's see. So, speaking of Amazon Prime, the first show we're going to be talking about is Beatless.
One I wanted to watch.
So, how'd
this one go?
Yes. So this was. I'm still on the fence about it. Because I think when we talked about it on our upcoming episode, we were debating whether it's going to be a like an action show, a comedy show, or if it's going to be like serious and dealing with like the soul inside of an android and stuff like that. They danced across that the entire episode. They're like, we're going to be a little bit philosophical over here, just a little bit, and then we're going to go over here and be action, and we're going to come over here and be a little bit etchy, because it's anime, and then we're going to be over here and do a little tiny bit of comedy. And then there were some parts that were actually like kind of scary. So it's always scary when like an android gets like damaged, and like let's say what was it, like let's say Terminator, when the liquid Terminator 2, when the liquid Terminator came after the person and like it got hit by something, like his head's like over here and like he's still coming after you all weird. Like something similar happens to that in Beatless, and it was like really, really creepy. And the main character is a dummy, because I'm like, run! Why are you still standing there? She's a robot. She's gonna kill you. Run! And he's like, are you okay, Mrs. So-and-so? And I'm like, dude! So,
see, that sort of mindset I feel like comes from like the horror genre, where they notice that they walk up to the front door and see it like partially open when it wasn't supposed to be. So what do? They come walking in going, hello? Hello, is anybody there? I'm like, why? If they're there, they're gonna kill you probably, because even if they didn't intend to, now you saw them, or you're going to see them.
Yeah.
Just get the hell out of there. Yeah, see, now already I'm like, oh, that would just annoy the hell out of me.
Yeah, so that's the part of the main character that kind of annoyed me. The good part of the main character is how they explain his story, where there's some people who hate the androids and some people who are like indifferent. They're just a being just like me, and it's like, not really, but I can see what you're talking about. There is a scene where I got kind of upset at his friends, and it kind of is telling me that this story is going to be kind of shallow, or at least at the beginning it's going to be shallow. He was walking with some of his friends, and they were kind of like, they walked past this shop, and like there's this android there who's like serving food and stuff like that, and she's like, oh, welcome, like, eat a shot, all that kind of stuff. And they're like, he's like, oh, okay, how you doing? And they walk past and they look at him, and they're like, why do you keep like talking to the androids like they're people? And he's like, well, it's like I can see like how he seems like he he seems like he thinks they're a real person, and he
Hmm.
acts like they're a real person, and everybody else is kind of like, oh, it's just a robot. Let's just go. It's like they're treat like it's a robot at a store, so it's a vending machine. They're like, I'm not gonna go talk to a vending machine, and
Yeah,
I'm like,
they treat it like an object instead of an actual person.
yeah. So I get that. Then they walked over to a corner, and there was this android helping this older lady across the street. And one thing that was weird is like there was these the cars are automated too, and there was this car like about to turn the corner, but the lady and the android were trying to cross, and the car is kind of like, just like not sitting still. It's like trying, like I feel like the car is just sitting there like recalculating because there's like an
Hmm.
obstacle, and it was kind of just like moving. I'm like, what is this car doing? And then the main character goes over and he's like, oh, let me help you, and he helps the android help this old lady across the street. And as he's running over there, the dude's like, it's just an android. What are you doing? Why are you helping? And in my head, I'm like,
There's an old lady.
there's an old lady there, exactly. I'm like, he's helping the android get the old lady across the street quicker. And I'm like, they didn't acknowledge the old lady at all. So I'm like, I'm not really like, that's kind of like,
Well, that to me feels like kind of a disassociation where your mind just becomes so numb. You know, it's like violence in our world right now. If you
mm,
think about back in like, let's say, 1950s, 1960s, or something like that.
mm,
If you took somebody from back then and took them to now and showed them, say, like
almost,
Atlanta or Los Angeles or something like that, I mean, it would be such a culture shock. It would just be something you're just like looking at it going, oh my God, what is this? Why? Why do people do that? Why are there people sitting there like that? Why are, there'd be so many questions. But for
everybody
us,
looking at their phones.
yeah, but for us, it's normal.
Yeah.
We don't even think about it. We don't take it for granted. We take it for granted, and we're just we disassociate ourselves with it. So I can kind of see where that comes from with them, where if it's just an old lady crossing the street with a robot, they see the robot and immediately shut down everything else.
Yeah.
It doesn't even register. It's like, oh, it's a robot, whatever. I'm just gonna
Mhm.
deal, whatever.
Yeah.
So, and it kind of reminds me of an older anime that I watched. It was an anime movie years and years ago. Do you remember Armitage?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I haven't seen
Yeah,
it, but I know of it.
yeah. And that had a lot of that same sort of very much people on the fence in that regards of are they human? Even they kind of act like it, or are
Mm,
they kind of more of just the android robot since they are,
yeah.
and then there was a big hullabaloo when they found out somebody was tweaking with them and then an actual they could give birth, and it was yeah, it became a
Wow.
huge ordeal. But that was the main focus of that, simply
Huh.
because it was once the androids game became able to give birth, then they became scared of, well, now they're more human.
Yeah.
That was the one thing that separated us, is they couldn't do that. Now they can, and then it just became huge thing.
Okay.
So I kind of see where this one's going, even though I haven't watched it. Just from what
Mm,
you've described,
yeah.
there's probably going to be a really big conflict in regards to whether or not they're considered human. So it's kind of an
Right.
old story. I'm just curious how well they tell it in their own way.
Yeah. There's
So
there are a few moments like that even I kind of fall into that like, oh, it's a person kind of thing. Is because after he helps the old lady and goes back and talks with his friends, the android comes back and like thanks him for helping the old lady cross the street. And it was kind of weird because I had like, even though it had been only like a couple minutes, I was like already engaged in a separate conversation, and then she kind of interrupted me like, "Oh, thank you," and then she like bowed and then walked away. And I'm like, that's some really really good programming. I'm like, that made me feel good. I'm like, that's kind of cool. And
but see, here's the thing. The bad thing about that is that, do you think had that been a human helping an old lady across the street, would they have thanked? Would they have come back and thanked them? Because there's a possibility that wouldn't have happened.
yeah,
There's a
yeah,
strong possibility that wouldn't have happened.
yeah,
Yet the android took that opportunity and said, "Oh, I'm going to go back and make sure to thank them for helping me with that."
yeah.
You know. So where do you draw the line? Where's the dividing marker here?
Yeah.
Is one more better than the other? I mean, so
Hmm.
I've always found those to be interesting, at least depending upon how they approach them.
Okay.
So,
So, I would say the last thing without spoiling anything is there's a whole completely different side of the story going on, which is the action part. Basically, there's a bunch of prototype androids that have like broken out of the facility and they're like causing all kinds of havoc. And one of them, or a new mysterious one, helps the main character,
uh,
and it seems like them two are going to be going against the other four or five androids, and that's where all the action comes in.
so
So,
the ones that decided that the androids are bad, or just they need to be treated like objects instead of like people, kind of thing.
well, no, those are just his human friends. Those are just
Okay.
two guys he goes to class with. The basically the military is fighting some escapee androids that were like prototyped with like weapons and all that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
weapon grade kind of. Okay,
Yeah,
I guess I see
yeah.
what you're saying.
Yeah, so all of that, and that's probably where the hatred comes from, is because they keep like experimenting with all these things, and like all these like disasters happen, and people die, and then the resentment grows. So I can see where all of that comes from just from the first episode. It's just my thing is I really like how the beginning they kind of warmed you up, saying like all these different interactions, and then towards the end of the episode they're like, okay, now here's the action, and I'm curious like, is it still going to be that balance throughout the whole series, or is it just going to be like the crazy action stuff that was at the
I
end?
mean, they can. It's just
Yeah,
as long as they do it well.
yeah. So I'm 100% on the fence because it was half really interesting stuff and then half like kind of interesting stuff. So I'm like, I don't know. So.
Well, I'll definitely be able to at least check this one out when I know it's on Prime, or at least yeah, so at least be able to find out. It sounds more intriguing to me than anything else, and
Okay.
it has been a while since I've seen at least a goodly done one that has that sort of question about what is humanity and how do you define it, kind of thing.
Okay. Cool. The next show we're gonna be talking about is Cardcaptor Sakura Clear Card.
This is entirely on you. I have no stake in this one whatsoever. If I
So,
wanted to watch this, this was out. Cardcaptor was out on, was it WB or Kiss WB?
oh wow.
Like, I want to say back when I was a teenager, like a young teenager, I think, like 14, 15 or something like that. Um, no, I watched part of an episode and then just went, nope, not for me. So you go
so,
ahead and take this one away.
so I am confused about my history with this show. I thought I had never seen this show at all, and I'm like, they're remaking it. Let me check out the first episode of the new one and see if it's interesting enough to where I'll go back and watch the old one as well. And it began with a silly kind of refresher, and it reminds me a lot of Sailor Moon.
Oh yeah, no, it should. From what I
So,
remember seeing of it, yeah, the original series Cardcaptor Sakura came out in 1998.
oh wow.
1998. 20 years ago.
Oh, so this is like a 20-year anniversary kind of thing?
20 year. It ended in 2000, so it had 2 years run.
Ah, that's cool.
Yeah. 20 years ago.
So, they did the like silly kind of refresher at the beginning, and it was done with the little flying mouse yellow creature.
Yeah, it's her little, gives her magical powers. I don't know, it's her trainee or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So as soon as I saw him, I'm like, oh, I recognize him. I don't know where from, but I do recognize him. So I don't know. I was like, maybe I've seen this before. I'm not sure. So he's basically like in front of a projector and like kind of explaining the premise of the original series. and like there's like another. I guess he's a familiar or something. I don't know, because it's like with Sailor Moon. Like the cat isn't really her familiar. It's like it's
a mentor. Like,
yeah, yeah. So I'm not sure if that's
I'll give you advice on what it is that you need to do, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you still got to do it.
Yeah. So I feel like I don't know where that is. It's probably the same thing, but so there's another animal thing, and it's running the projector, and it's like pointing to some cue cards. And because it switched to him so quickly, it switched back. I couldn't tell what he was saying. I'm like, is he saying hurry up? Or like read the script? Because he's like slapping this card. So I'm like, what's going on? And all of a sudden he just started speeding up. So I'm guessing he's saying speed it up. And then like, I don't even know what the whole premise of the first series is because he talks so fast. But I was like, it doesn't matter. If I like this, I'll go back. So, I started watching this, and it's pretty interesting. It is basically a girl who's going to middle school now, I think, and just trying to live her regular life, and then all of these crazy, like, incidents happen, and whenever she defeats the monster, she gets a card, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, it's basically the same formula as Sailor Moon. So I'm like, okay, I liked Sailor Moon when I was younger, maybe I'll like this too. So what was it? I'm pretty sure a bunch of crazy things happened, and they kind of like finalized the last series, and like characters that were together are like separated. Well, in this episode, like this one guy, Shoran or something like that, which is I guess her love interest, he shows back up, and she's like, oh darling, and they're all like, ah, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is some strong affection. I'm like, yeah. Jesus. So, I'm like, they weren't doing it. They were just talking, and she's like, uh-huh. And like another girl, like her friend is like trying to embarrass her, so she's like recording because they're like gazing into each other's eyes. Oh, and then, and I'm like, this is some strong, like they just dumped a bunch of romance on this show. It's heavy, it's thick. I'm like, Jesus. I'm like, I'm like getting kind of embarrassed. I'm like, do y'all need a room or something? Do we need to like go to another scene? Cause y'all are like really intensely in love. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I don't know any of the backstory, but I'm pretty sure y'all have gone through some stuff. So, it was weird. I've never seen a show where the two characters were like that intensely in love in a long time. So that was kind of interesting. She lives with her dad and her brother, I think, because I think her mom passed away. And her dad looks just like her. They both look almost the same age. Like I couldn't tell who was older between her dad and her brother, and they're like kind of like making all these like playful comments, and I'm like, you're kind of creepy. I'm like, yeah, I know you're her dad and all, but like you're kind of towing that line a little bit too much. And then the brother's just an ass, and I'm like, you need to take a chill pill or something. I don't remember much about the school that she goes to. All I remember is that, and then the fights, they're magical girl fights. It's nothing special. Like, yeah, it's just run of the mill magical girl fights. So
you don't remember anything about the school because like all the rest of it just creeped you out so much. It like went by like in a blur, and you're just like, oh my god, what is it I just watched? Other than being creeped out.
Yeah, it was just I don't know. It's like I kind of want to go back and like, cause I feel like I just got thrown in like the middle of the ocean. I'm like, okay, I get that. Like it's called Cardcaptor have their clear card because all of the cards that she captured in the first series, they all kind of just got wiped, and they're all like just. I thought it was plastic, but apparently they're glass. So now they're just empty glass cards. And she still has them, and there's this guy that she goes to try to figure out what happened to him, and like they cast a couple spells and like try to figure out what happened to him, and they don't know yet. So that's intriguing. I'm like, well, what happened to all the cards? You got a big old stack. I'm like, that's cool. So
2 years and how many seasons worth of her defeating monsters and such? I'm sure she has probably quite the collection.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, they're all invisible now. I'm like, what do you do with them really? Do you just keep them in that box, or are there like a certain number of them you're trying to collect, and like you're almost there, but then these are all wiped now? I'm like, I'm very intrigued after they got past the whole romance scene. 'Cause, I don't know. It's
Well, see, that just means you need to go back and watch 2 years worth of episodes.
so I feel like I'm going to do that.
Oh God. Oh God. Why? Why put yourself through that?
Because I want to know.
Why? It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
So yeah, this is gonna put on the backlog list. I don't know when I'll get to it or what.
Way in the back. Like, maybe not quite the end, but maybe like second to last or something.
So, yeah, the episode was very intriguing, especially because I feel like I just got thrown right in the middle of something. And I kind of want to know why they all turned clear. That's it. I'm like, what happened? It looks like it was a lot of work. So
2 years worth of work. So yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting. I may go back to it one day. All right, the next show we're gonna be talking about is Citrus.
Another one I have no clue about. I don't know. I the only thing I remember about this one is, okay, so the picture you put up is a lot better than the one I remember seeing in, was it AnyList? I want to say on AnyList.
Yeah, I think the old image before the series started was
that was kind of just, I wasn't even sure what I was looking at, especially when it was called Citrus, and I'm like, what? I don't know if I want to even know what's going on in this one, but go ahead.
So yeah, I don't know why it's called Citrus either. This is a Yuri show.
I could have guessed.
Yeah, so it's animated, very nice.
I feel like you're trying to find really hard something to say that does not involve what you originally said at the start. Just gonna point that out. Just gonna say that. I mean, you know.
So at the beginning of the show, the blonde girl, she is that gal type of personality, which is like, I guess the English equivalent would be like Valley Girl, like all dressed up, all made up, and like all that kind of stuff. And she's talking with some of her other friends and everything, and they're all like going to, you know, the term mixer, right?
Party where you go to.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like half guys, half girls, and y'all trying to like hook up and stuff like that. So she's like on all kinds of mixers and all that kind of stuff, and she's actually putting on a front, like with her friends. She talks about like all the guys she's dated and kissed and all that kind of stuff, and then she's like inside her head, she's like she's never actually fallen in love. So I don't know if it's been like.
I do remember reading about this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she wants to have a boyfriend.
Yeah.
But then her mom puts her in a all-girls school.
So what happened is her mom finds this guy, and then they end up either getting married, I don't know, or just moving in together. And this guy's like, oh. At first I thought this guy was like a really rich businessman. He's just off on trips and all that kind of stuff. And so basically you never see him. And they end up moving into the place, and then she starts going, before she moves, she talks to her friends. She's just like, they're all like, you're gonna miss out on the mixer or anything. She's like, nah, that's fine. It's like, I'm gonna go to the new school, and I'm gonna hook up with the guy, and it's gonna be just fine. And then she moves in, and then the first day of school, she's walking and gets to the school, and it's like all girl high school. So she's like,
dun, dun.
She's like, oh no. And because she's dressed up all blonde and like clothes are certain, just crazy, like vibrant colors and all that kind of stuff, she walks up to, like, she's walking to the school, and like everybody passing her is all like nice and buttoned up, solid black hair, like just prim and proper, and everybody's just like a sea of robots, and she immediately stands out. So, what was it? It wasn't the student council president, but it was somebody like one of the people who like a hall monitor, I guess would be the easiest way to say it. Like stops her, and she's like, she's like, your hair's in violation, your uniform's in violation. You can't have the cell phone. You can't have makeup. You can't be your entire self. Yourself is an entire violation. And she's kind of shocked, and she starts getting mad and like goes up to the girl and like starts complaining. He's like, oh, I'm new to the school. You can't do all this kind of stuff to me and all that kind of stuff. And then the other main girl kind of breaks up that little confrontation and like walks up to her, and she is actually the student council president. And then she kind of like calms the other girl down, and like one of the girls wanted to confiscate her her cell phone, and she said no and put it in her pocket. Well, when the student council president walked up to her, she like got up in her face and was like telling her that she needs to like follow the rules and all that kind of stuff, and then just felt her up and snatched her cell phone all at the same time. And me, I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And then she's like, got your cell phone, and then walked off. And then the other girl just kind of fell to her knees, like kind of trembling. She's like, what just happened? I'm like, I don't know. I can't help you. So I was like, what am I in store for? Oh my God.
Oh.
Now, most of the time, ecchi shows like put me off, and especially like there's this one show that was also at a Yuri show, and I can't remember the name. It came out probably like a year or more ago, and I just didn't like it. Like there's something about it that I'm like, not feeling this. Like this is like the Yuri shows that I like are like playful Yuri, where like all the girls they're kind of like in love with each other, but they're all playing around and doing silly stuff like Yuri. Then there's the serious adult ones, and it's a mature story, so that's fine. And then there's the raunchy ones, and I'm like, no, thank you. And then there's whatever this is. It's like a mix of like, like kind
raunchy, adult, and playful.
Yeah, I'm like, what is this? So I like it. I think I don't know. It is yeah.
You know what? I am not even remotely surprised, considering your like of Kaijo.
No, that's
I am
different.
not remotely surprised.
No.
Not even a little.
No, Keijo's different.
Not even. How is it different?
Because Keijo is trying to be a shonen show, and they are being 110% shonen. This show is weird. Like, I'm intrigued by this show.
I would say Kaijo is extremely weird, and that it's trying to be a sports anime.
Yeah.
As a cover story for girls trying to beat each other up with their boobs and butts. So this being the fact of it's like a girl coming to school wanting to hook up with a guy, finding it's an all-girls school, and then getting felt up by the student council president.
So
because she wanted to get her phone. Go ahead.
Watch the first episode. And see how they execute stuff. Because the way you're explaining it, I'm trying to imagine it in my head. I'm like, no, that's not the same thing.
That's what I heard from you.
Yes, but you have to see it. Like it's, cause like when other shows they like fill up a character, they like come up right behind them and just like, ooh, jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. I'm like, that's stupid. Stop it. This show.
So what? She like was professionally trained by a police officer to just interrogate somebody and grope them?
I would not be surprised. I was like, she was an expert. Like, it was like stealthy and all up in your face at the same time.
Oh my goodness.
Whereas like she walked up to her and then you're like, oh, what just happened? And she's like, I got your phone. And you're like, did you need to do all that other stuff? Because
it was right here in the back pocket. Just saying.
Yeah, it's like you could have just. Yeah, so I don't know. It was that like threw me for a loop. I was like, what the hell just happened? So then after that encounter, they're fine with her like having the dress because it's the first day, but they're like, tomorrow come back as like regular, like not in violation. And from the picture, it looks like they're just gonna let her stay the way she is. I don't know, but you get to end up you get to meet some other characters that still follow the rules, but then they're like, oh, the teacher's here, okay, I'm nice and proper. And as soon as the teacher leaves, they're like, oh my god, so and so, this and this and that. And I'm like, oh, okay, so that's really cool how like not everybody is just robot must do homework kind of stuff. So it's really interesting how they're like sprinkling other characters that are somewhat interesting in there. You end up finding out that her mom, the main girl's mom, married the student council girl's father. So the girl that just felt her up is actually her sister.
Not related though, not even a little bit.
Yeah.
At least that is good in that regards.
So that surprised me. I should have seen it coming, but I did not see it coming.
Yeah, because you were just it completely dumbfounded with the whole just professional gropeception that had happened between that. You just completely zoned out anything else coming forward.
Oh, what was it? The head teacher, or like what are the other crazy, like she has a mushroom haircut. It's so weird and so out of place. I was like, everybody's dressed normal, and then you look like a mushroom. And then every night, like I'm seeing from the picture, I haven't met most of these characters, but eventually you start meeting some characters that have a little bit of color and personality to them, I'm assuming. And I'm really curious to find out like the personalities of these other characters. So, I don't know. This show, I guess, like, how do I want to say this? I'm like, we're live on the internet. This show is tastefully done. So,
is that the same tastefully done as in like Kaijo tastefully done?
No, Kaijo is absurd. So absurd that I love it. This show is tastefully done so far. So I'm gonna watch a couple more episodes to see.
For research purposes, purely. Research purposes.
So, that's it for that one. The next show we're gonna be watching, next show we're gonna be talking about is Darling in the FranXX, or FranXX, or whatever it's called.
Eventually, you're gonna get tired of talking. I know it's gonna happen.
Yeah, you got the next one. So, this show is about, I don't understand the world completely yet in this show, but I do know it follows a group of students who live on this colony that is moving. That colony also has an army of giant mechs. There's a human race of people, and then there's this other, like, I guess mutation, or it's another race, I'm not sure, of people who have horns.
Okay.
The way the society is run is basically once the kid reaches a certain age, they become a pilot of one of them. They team up, and that's where the darling comes from, because it's usually a male and a female, and they're a darling pair or something like that. And
okay.
And they both pilot the mech together. It's kind of like Pacific Rim, where you have to have two people. They don't go into the whole synchronization like that show. It's something different. I haven't figured out like why you need two people yet. But if two people are a match, then they can pair up and get them in the mech and then protect the colony from these giant monsters that live all over the place. The main character, the guy, he is having trouble synchronizing with the person he's paired up with. And on their final, like, I guess, trial or final test, they're not able to synchronize, and it's very, very demanding mentally and physically. And once they're done, they're just breathing heavy, sweaty, they can't handle being in that machine anymore. So after they fail the test, basically, I guess they're like, about to get exiled to like one of the little secondary pod things that like float along the side of the ship. I guess where all the rejects, I guess, would be. And right when his partner is about to be about to go into the little pod, a monster attack, and then this crazy battle happens, and it is this show is made by Trigger, and these are the people who did Fooly Cooly. These are the people who did Gurren Lagann. That style of
that like crazy animation style.
Yes, this is that show, and they also teamed up with A1 Pictures to work on this, so it's going to be very good. Before the monster attacks, the guy is off by himself, and like right after he failed his test, and he's kind of like trying to figure out his new purpose. He's trying to figure out his new purpose in life. He's looking up to the sky, and he's like, what am I gonna do? I can't pilot this mech, and that's basically like that's what you're supposed to do in this society. So he's off at this lake. He ends up, I think he's looking for something, and he ends up coming across this girl in the lake. This girl with horns, she was just transported to that colony to kind of be, I think she's gonna be like a specialized helper to the military, I guess, would be what's way to explain it. And I'm not sure if it's because of the horns or if it's just because she's super duper powerful, and she keeps killing the partners that she's paired with because she's too strong. So when they arrive at the colony, there's her and like this guy who has his arm in a sling, his neck's in a cast, and he's just like has his helmet on, and you can tell that he's like, I don't think he's gonna last that much longer. But during the whole trip there, she's like impulsive. She's like, she's like, I feel dirty. I want to take a bath. And they're like, just hold on. We're almost at the colony. And as soon as they get to the colony, she like just disappears. So the main character comes across her taking her bath that she wanted, even though she escaped from her like people who were supposed to be keeping an eye on her. And they both meet, and she like licks his face or something. And like it's this weird encounter, and then she's like really intrigued by him so I guess she can see something in him that works with her. But they finally catch her and like take her off to the thing. When the monster attacks later on, their mech like smashes into the side of the building. The main character just happened to be walking from there because that's where he left his partner off into the pod. And that guy, when the sling just falls out of the mech and just dies. Like he just can't handle another battle. She's all like just torn up and bloody, and she's halfway out of the machine, and she's like climbing back in, and the dude's like, "No, wait, you're injured." She's like, "We gotta fight," and then they ended up becoming partners. He gets in the thing. The mech transforms into something that nobody's seen in a long time, and they defeat the monster. And I'm like, it is awesome. Mm-hmm. So I really like this show. I would say anybody who's a fan of Gurren Lagann, anybody who's a fan of mechs, anybody who's a fan of that Trigger style animation, they would absolutely love the show also.
See, now when you were describing it, it almost reminded me of Eureka 7. Did you ever watch that one?
I need to. When the second season came out, when the second season came out, I know I was listening to another podcast, and they were like a really big fan of it, and then they said the second season doesn't exist anymore because of how bad it was. So he like refused to acknowledge it.
It was pretty bad. In no way connection to like the first season. The first season was just on its own tremendously great. But that second season it's like some things where you're like, you should never have continued it. You should have left it where it was. It was perfectly fine where it was. We were good where it was. Why did you touch it? No, leave it alone.
Yeah,
kind of thing. So
yeah. So because people like really love the first series and they say it like it left off with a good thing, that's one of the shows that it's like it's on my backlist. I want to watch it because it's a Bones show, and I love Bones. Like it's.
But yeah, just like what you were describing with the fact that like the mech had to operate with two people kind of thing, and when the two of them got together, it transformed into something no one else had ever seen. Immediately, that just popped in my head with Eureka 7. That's pretty much exactly what happened on theirs too.
Oh, okay.
So
Cool. But yeah. So overall, like, I love this type of like Kill la Kill was a bit raunchy for me. Like as far as like a trigger show goes, like I'm into Fooly Cooly, I'm into Gurren Lagann, I'm into what was that other show? Gunbuster. Like those types of shows, I really really love from Trigger.
yeah,
This is right up my alley. I used to not be a big mech fan, but if the story's good enough, then I'm on board, and I'm definitely on board for this show.
well, was this one the one that was Amazon as well?
No, this is on Crunchyroll.
Was it? Okay. Actually,
Yes.
yeah. Now I remember. I'm gonna check this one out.
Cool. All right. The next show
Yay!
we're
What
gonna
are
be
you gonna
talking
talk
about
about?
is Death March to the Parallel World Rhapsody.
Yes. So this, I think, a lot of people. I don't know. I feel like people are getting. What was it? The other one with the cell phone in another world. I feel
Yeah.
like people are gonna draw a lot of comparisons to
Yeah.
in regards, but because I see a lot of flack from that one, and rightly so, about somebody being overpowered.
Yeah.
And they draw comparisons between that and One Punch Man because they're like One Punch Man did it right. The cell phone in another world did it completely wrong as far as someone who is completely overpowered and just has just too much. To me, I think this one holds a good balance.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I think he knows he has the power, but he doesn't abuse the power. And he still has moments where he's unsure of himself because of how he gained that power.
Yeah.
So, did you watch this one?
Yes.
Okay. How many episodes you into it?
Just one.
Okay. But like, so, but you see what I'm saying with that though, right? Because like, he gained his power. So for those of you who don't know, so basically, this is a story of a game programmer who he works really hard. Like, oh my god, this is like insane.
Yeah.
How many hours? Like, they don't even leave the office for like days at a time.
Yeah.
And they sleep underneath their desks, kind of thing. I'm just
Yeah.
like,
One thing I want to say,
holy shnikes.
yeah, the one thing I want to say is basically like programmers, they have this thing called crunch time, and same thing in the gaming industry. I think I'm not sure if it's just this anime calling that, but I'm pretty sure the Japanese equivalent is called the Death March.
Yeah.
So that's basically what this show gets its name from.
Yeah. So he they don't. He's not sure yet because he goes to sleep underneath his desk, and he wakes up in this world. We don't know how he got there. We don't know why he's there, and we don't know if it's real or not. He's unsure if it's real or not, but he's going with it because he's like, I'm tired. This is a nice change of pace. This looks great. I'm gonna go with it. So he's going with it. So what ended up happening was, because I mean the description that they had of this on AniList was like nowhere. It was very vague in a lot of ways. So when he's he's helping to make the game and to fix the bugs in the game, one of the things is they made the game too hard. So they wanted to give people a little bit of a help when they first started. So what they did was they gave them 3 meteor showers essentially as spells.
Okay.
See, so in the beginning of the game, well, no, and when he was in the real world, that's what they were trying to figure out. And he's like, okay, I'll tell you what, we'll give the starting player 3 meteor showers and a map reveal, or like maybe 2 map reveals. I think 2 map reveals. So that way they can kind of get the feel for things. They don't get completely bogged down, but it's an option. They don't have to use it if they don't want to use it. So what ends up happening is when he gets, for better lack of word, when he gets transported into this game, he is in the middle of a huge battle. Like lizard men, dragon, like everything around him is going crazy and everyone's coming straight for him. He's like the focal point of this. So he panics. He uses his meteor shower, but then he doesn't think it works. So he uses all 3 of them. He uses all 3 of them, and then all 3 of them trigger. And this giant meteor storm, not even a shower now, it's more of a storm, just comes down and just slaughters everything in this valley. Just complete decimation. And you end up finding out later, not only did he kill all the lizard men there were dragons that he ended up killing, because he's going through his at one point in this he keeps getting new titles, and he was like, at one point he's like, man, I've been getting a lot of titles, let me go look through them real quick. At one point he's going down and he sees one of them is Godslayer, and he sees where he gets it from, and he's like, oh, I killed a bunch of dragons. I guess that happened during the meteor shower that I didn't even notice that was the thing. Okay, but yeah, so all of this happens, and he goes from a level 1 character to a level like 350 some odd character. Just like, boom, right there, because of all the massive killing with all the creatures that happen. So he gains all this, all of a sudden, all of his stats are maxed out. He has so many skill points to use, and he has all of this like equipment, and he ended up getting like an endless bag, like a pouch to another dimension. So he put all of it into there. So literally, he can just keep pulling things out of this bag like nobody's business. So basically, he becomes overpowered because now he's just got everything, but he doesn't know how to use it. He's not, even though he is a programmer of a game, he's still kind of feeling things out. He's like, I know what this can do, but I don't know how it works here.
Yeah.
So that to me is a nice way of balancing it. You're not just giving a person a mass amount of power and all of a sudden they're masters with it right off the bat. No, you gave him a whole bunch of mass amount of power, and it's like giving a 10-year-old just like massive just boosts of everything. Yeah, they're gonna be like, well, this is cool, but they don't know what to do with it. And that's kind of the way he is. He's like, I'm here. I don't really have a goal in mind, because for all I know, this is a dream. I'm just going to wander around and just kind of see how this works. But it's cool because like he'll do some cool things, and then he'll do things that he's like, he probably shouldn't have, but he didn't realize that he could do those things. And then apparently he actually now has the skill. See, before those were items that he used for the meteor shower. Yeah. He got 3 items he could use. Now he actually has that as a skill, as a power. Yeah. So he can call meteor showers down, and he tests that at one point and then goes, I am never using that ever again. I am turning that off. That's not something I want to do, because I don't know if it was because of it was now one of his powers, but I think comparably to the 3 that he called down before, the 1 that he calls down from his own power is even stronger than those 3 were. Yeah, because it decimates a freaking area. Because he's like, I'm gonna go all the way over here, and I'm gonna see how well this works. Because that way I'm out of the blast range. And he calls it down, and he had to run, because even though he was out of the blast range, he was still technically in the blast range. So, yeah, because it's like 3 entry-level basic meteor attacks compared to 1 master level 300 300 attack. I was like, whoa. Decimates a whole canyon essentially. There was nobody in there, but maybe that was when the dragons were. I don't know, but either way, it was just like, holy crap. After that initial after episode 1, episode 2, I feel like slows down dramatically. Like it hyped me up. I was just so totally stoked to see what would happen, and then we just immediately came crashing down. We're just like this is such a roller coaster, because now he goes to a town, and now it's like almost it went from action to slice of life. And I'm like, wait, what just happened here? You see him using some of his skills, because then he starts to be able to barter. He starts to be able to trick people. He's telling people he's a merchant even though he's not. But he has enough skill points where he can max out deceit and conversation stuff, that he can convince people that he is, so they don't question him. But then the last episode that I watched was kind of nice, because it had a little bit more action to it. I don't get me wrong, I enjoy the learning about the world and everything, but I think where it really shines is when we get into those action sequences with it. I feel like that is where it needs to be at, because it's a fantasy anime. It's got to have some good action in it. It's interesting how things are progressing, because apparently you find out that there are demi-humans in the world. They're part some sort of animal and human, and people in this world kind of treat them as slaves. Because I guess during a long time ago, a war that happened, there was actually a war between the demi-humans and the humans. and the humans ended up winning. But because of like all the death that took place because of it, there's like a lot of animosity between humans and demi-humans. So now demi-humans are essentially treated as slaves. But of course, he's from our world. We really don't look at like that, and he kind of frowns upon that. And because of that, people look at him strange because he actually treats them like people.
Yeah.
So, but there's a nice relationship going on there because there was an incident that occurred. I'm not gonna get much into it later because I think you really like this one. I think comparatively to like Cell Phone in Another Universe, this one's way better. This one's leaps and bounds better. But like the interactions that he has with them later on with the demi-humans, I think are just it's great, and you can really see where they care about him because he shows them a lot of basically treats them like a human.
Yeah.
You know, he finds that they're hurt or dirty, and he gives them like a stack of like clean cloth and something to take care of their wounds. He doesn't do anything with them, but he's like, here, you can have this. And they look at him like, don't waste this on us. And he's like, no, because eventually he's like, I order you to take this and to clothe yourself and clean yourself up. And then they do it. But, it's like he had to go that far because they're so used to being treated like slaves that he had to take it that far. But, and then it's fun just to see he has, like, knowledge that he's been using. For the most part, he has a lot of, like, physical and better attributes that he can use. But for the most part, he uses his way of, like, to everyone else, it's the real world. To him, it's a game. And he can, like, open up a menu in front of him and be able to see like a map of the area, or he can actually look at people and see their stats. So he knows like, okay, you're level this. When he gets into a situation with the demi-humans, they're in like essentially a dungeon, and he looks at them and he's like, okay, like in the picture, the two little girls that are up top. And then I think is it the blonde that's there as well, or is also a demi-human? The blonde one he looks at and goes, okay, you actually have fighting skill. I see that. So I'm going to give you a weapon. But I'm not going to give a weapon to these two because I know they don't have fighting skill. They can't do anything with it. So there's no point, So he's very much like he's using his knowledge in that regards to better assess the situation, depending upon what he's in. So
I was just thinking, like, he goes to like a restaurant and he like sees a girl and sees her stats. You're like, hey, nice stats.
No. So he has had instances where he's like, because apparently in this world, I think what they said is like, because he had to go and get registered for the town, and when he did, they saw his age was 15, and that's essentially considered an adult in that town. Okay. So he gets very confused. Oh. Yeah, because when he goes to this other world, even though he was an adult in the other world, he becomes younger.
Yeah. Okay.
Go figure. Because eventually, at first, I was like, oh, so he's gonna go into this other world as an adult. That's something different, because usually it's always like kids that are going into it. Yeah. But at least, even though he is younger in appearance, he's still the same age mentally.
He did mention that. Yeah. I think he saw his reflection. Yeah. Yeah,
he saw his reflection. He's like, why am I this young? Yeah. I look like I did back in high school. Why am I? No. But he still retains all of his personality as an adult. Yeah. So, which I appreciate that. Yeah. It didn't just became like a kid and like all of a sudden he's gonna have like kid tendencies kind of thing. It's like no.
Yeah, the last show that I remember doing that was like Erased, because even though he would travel back in time and he's like a 29-year-old, whenever he transferred back to his child age, he still kept his like 28. He kept his current mind. So yeah, that's an interesting thing that I've started noticing in shows.
I appreciate that, because I'm kind of getting a little bit this underage boyish personality, because like at one point in the second episode he ends up getting approached by a young girl with big boobs who like goes and grabs his arm and like is pressing up against him because she's trying to convince him to come to her mother's inn. And he's like, that's really soft. He makes note of that. He's like, that's really soft. And had I been younger, probably would have tried to go for something with that. But I'm just going to let it slide. And I'm just going to kind of go along with it anyways. So he's still retaining his like, okay, this is wrong. This is not going to happen. There's nothing to this. But I'm going to go along with it just to see how this pans out. but he doesn't have the reaction that you would like, if he was a 15-year-old in this world or whatever, got someone big boobs coming in, he'd be like, oh yeah, no.
Okay.
So even though I see this becoming a harem anime, I don't think that it's going to. I don't think it's going to progress down the really like overly raunchy side or like overly like, because he's gonna look at these situations and be like, yeah, no, not gonna happen. It's still nice because he'll know that. He'll be like, it's kind of like in Garo with the dude where he makes note of big boobs. He's like, oh, thank you, because he'll make note of that. But that's it. That's as far as we go. He's like, okay. And I think that's kind of the same realm of what we're getting here. He's like, she looks nice, it's really nice, but I have things to do. It's kind of like in those situations. So.
Okay. Cool. All right. So yeah, I watched this one also. You explained a lot of questions that I had. Because I didn't know where the meteors came from. And I was like, oh, they did mention that they were giving something to the beginner players. And I was like, okay. And then, what was it?
He just got really lucky in the usage of them.
Yeah. And then, I didn't know where the meteors came from. And then I was like, these meteors came out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden he's at level 300. So I'm like, I don't understand. But now I get it. I may continue this one. I'm not sure. It's like not really my biggest genre. I have to see more to see if the other characters like hook me. Because it's a harem, I'm not really sure. Unless they are like really, really interested, like Gate. Something like Gate, I'm like 100% on board. Something like Konosuba, I'm like 100% on board. This is one of my weakest genres, so I'll check out a couple more episodes to see if it hooks me. But right now I'm on the fence.
I don't know. The other characters are, so far you've met that one girl he ends up saving, who got blasted away when she was casting a spell, because that was in the end of the first episode.
Oh yeah.
She's a continuing character. She's not one that just one and done. She's actually a continuing character, because I think she's actually in the picture, the blonde that's in the very forefront of the picture. Okay. That's her. Cool. She does show up again, so as far as I know, she's a continuing character. She's decently okay. She's very much an open book, open-faced person, because when she introduces herself later on, she makes note of that. She pretty much spills her guts right then and there in front of him. He makes the introduction going, "Hey, I'm Sato," and she's like, "Oh, I'm the yada 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 of the yada yada family, and I do magic, and I've just recently graduated out of high school, and I'm currently single." And at the very end, he's just like, in his mind, he's going, "I really didn't need to know that last part, but okay, that's fine. We'll go with that." So she's kind of an interesting character, and the demi-humans that he's with too, I think will be like, the little girls are just adorable. I think one of them's a dog, and one of them's part dog, and one of them's, I know the older one's part lizard. And then I forget what the other little girl is, but they're adorable in their own way. And he utilizes them very well, too, because when they're in that dungeon situation, he tells the one that's a dog, he's like, "If you smell blood, you let me know. That way I can know ahead of time, and I know what to expect." So, I mean, he's using his brains in that regards. I'm like, that's awesome. Because, immediately she's like, "I smell blood up ahead." And he's like, "Oh, well, now I know there's danger." So, but yeah, I honestly, I don't think they're going to go too far, even though he has himself surrounded by women. I don't think they're going to go too far down the harem, like overly in love story where everyone's just madly, I think they're going to care for him. Obviously, the one girl that he saved cares for him just because he saved her life. Yeah. And I think kind of with the slaves, the demi-humans, because he's pretty much saving their lives, and he's kind of taking over and treating them actually like people. So I think it's going to be a series of circumstances where it's not going to be like he's just doing something that would probably have come naturally anyways, and just because he has the ability to do so, but they're going to at least care for him because of it, kind of thing.
Okay.
So.
Cool. All right. I will definitely give that a couple more episodes. The next show we're going to be talking about is Grancrest Senki, or Record of Grancrest War.
I don't know. I'm kind of on... So you watched the first one, this one?
Yes, but I don't... Oh! Okay, yeah.
You remember?
Yes.
I'm on the fence about this one, honestly.
Yeah,
I kind of am.
yeah,
I think probably the biggest on the fence portion of this for me is it seems to be going at a really, really quick pace, and I'm still able to keep up, but I'm having to really try to put forth the effort to keep up.
hmm,
Like I feel like there's a lot more backstory and a lot more story going around that we're just not being told right
yeah.
away, and it causes confusion later on until they at least mention something. And you're like, oh, okay, okay, I think I follow you here. Okay, let's keep
So,
going.
you're saying this is basically a 52 episode series that they're trying to squeeze down to one season?
I think so. Honestly, I really do. And it's like you're trying to they're trying to get you to feel for the characters, and they really have some very unique characters.
Mhm.
Like I want to know more about her, the main girl, the main mage girl's partner, that dude, because there's something blood, something or other. Like he has an ability, and it's really cool.
Mhm.
Like I appreciate that. Um, and then she has another character that comes on. I think it's the purple-haired girl that's in the
Mhm.
picture there that comes on. Again, she has something very similar, and I'm like, okay, so there's multiple people who have this.
Okay.
What is it? Why do they have this? What is the purpose of this? I'm
Yeah.
like, they're really, really good fighters, and I really like the purple-haired girl, by the way. Like her
Mhm.
character is just, I laugh so hard because later on they get into a huge battle with
Mhm.
another count, and she goes like full on berserk mode, and this one guy on the other army is trying to like, it's basically kind of outmaneuvers her slightly, and she's like, I really like you, and I'm like, that is hilarious. You're fighting against him, you're trying to kill him, and he's kind of like outmaneuvering you, and you're still like, you're outmaneuvering me. I like you. Can we be friends? And I'm like, oh my god, really? Just oh my god. So I mean, like the characters are there. They have great characters. I feel like there's a lot more backstory going on that they're not telling us. I want to know more about the mages. I want to know more about the demon lord and how he managed to just come into where the kings were trying to unite and become one, and so that way, they could unite their realms and become even stronger. Like they had it in the very beginning, and then nothing, and the kings died, and then all of a sudden they just say everything devolves into chaos, and I'm like, what happened? Why? Why did it devolve into chaos? Why didn't someone do something? Why did that
show
even allow that to happen?
show me the chaos.
Yeah. They describe how the main character, the dude who's becoming a count, had his land is in turmoil, and like I'm like, all right, can we have like at least maybe half an episode to like do a little backstory on this and how he got his own crest, because everyone's looking at him going, how did you get that crest? And he's like, I made it or something. I'm like, how did that happen? Why did that happen? I feel
Yeah.
like there's so much potential being wasted on this, that they have very unique characters. The action is great. They obviously know how to do battle sequences because they had a huge like half war that was going on, which was awesome. And there's just so much else going on, and I feel like there's just wasted potential here, and it's infuriating because I watch more because I'm wanting to know more, but at the same time, for every one question they answer, I get like 50 more.
Mhm.
So I'm just like, God, you're killing me. Just stop it. Stop it. So I don't know. I feel bad. I feel bad. I want this to be a better series, and I see the potential that it has, and it's just not there.
Yeah. Um. So for me, I watched the first episode, and this is also another fantasy anime, one of my weaker genres. Um, I was intrigued by what was going to happen. At the beginning, basically two factions, um, the princess and the prince from two different factions were getting married to kind of like create peace between the two nations, and before that could happen, I guess somebody attacked and killed the kings of both kings,
Demon
and
Lord all of a sudden got summoned randomly because a chaos thing came out of nowhere.
yeah, and both kings got killed, and then
Yeah.
instead of them still being like, we're gonna reunite, and both sides are gonna like rise up against the Demon King. They're like, no, we hate each other, and now everybody's fighting again. So that was one thing where I'm like, where'd the demon? Did they show any more of the demon? Okay.
Nope.
So I'm like, who
He showed himself once in the first episode, and I think I'm on episode 4 now, and I've yet to see him again.
Yeah, I'm like, that was a big thing that happened. That kind of ruined so many people's plans, or at least the higher ups' plans. Like, the show's almost, it's like 1/3 over. Like, where are they? So, that's one issue that I had with it. So I was like, it's my expectations keep getting switched. So I'm like, okay, yeah, okay. Well, they went this direction. I'm like, okay, fine. I guess that'll work. And then we're following the mage, and I want to know more about her backstory, like how'd she get so strong, like where'd she come from, like what's, like you said, the relationship between her and the her other two people that she has around. I'm like, that's gonna be cool. And then she meets this one guy, and like he's weaker than them, and he's like thinks he's protecting them, and they're like, oh, that's kind of cute. And then she kind of like becomes his subordinate, but then kind of like, now I'm gonna drag you around and do what I want anyway. Kind of thing.
I think it's because she was going to be promised to another count.
So she found a loophole, I guess.
She found a loophole, basically. Mm-hmm. But she made sure it was somebody who, and not so much that she could do that with, where she could push around, but someone whose ideals would not conflict with her own.
Okay.
So I see where that went.
Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, it's like
a good situation, basically.
Yeah, so did they reveal that after episode 1? Because where I left off, she was like, I'm going to make you great or something like that. And then the episode ended.
Well, but I mean, I think that was kind of like the insinuation when she was asking him all the questions about why he wanted to be a count or gain more power. And when she found out why his reasons for that, like it goes a little bit more deeper into that, like in the following episodes. Uh-huh. But at least in that beginning part, that's where that clicked with her. And she's like, okay, you're not horrible. You're not a mean person.
Yeah. So
if I become subservient, or you're subservient, quote unquote, it's not going to make any conflicts of interest with me personally.
Okay.
So since I have to do something like this, I might as well do something with someone that I have a little bit better chance of actually liking, basically.
Okay. So yeah, it's like every time I think it's going to go one way, it goes a different way. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. So I feel like I don't think I'm gonna continue this one. Now that I know, like it's, I don't know. It's like hearing your opinion, I'm kind of confirming where I'm like, I'm not sure.
If I had to tell you to choose between this one and Death March as a fantasy anime to watch, I would say Death March.
Okay.
If you got to watch one of them and you can only watch one of them, Death March would be the one. Because even though there are interesting characters in this one, there are interesting characters in Death March as well, and I think that storyline-wise, the pacing and overall story seem to make a little bit more sense to me in Death March than it does in Grancrest.
Okay.
So I'm still gonna watch Grancrest.
Yeah.
Because I'm at this point kind of hooked on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it does remind me. There's so many other animes it reminds me of, and I hate to think that they pretty much took like a bunch of different ideas and are trying to compress them all into this, and that's why it just feels so rushed. Mm-hmm. But it honestly, like, the pacing just seems all over the place with this one. Okay. All over the place. And that's, to me, the two things that kill animes to me are either annoying characters that I just cannot stand to watch, or pacing that just does not, it doesn't keep up, and it leaves you just sitting there just scratching your head being like, wait, why are we all the way here now? What happened to all this? Where did you cut this out? Why is this now a footnote when you were saying before this was something important? And now we're just assuming that it just happened and we're here now. And it's like, no, that doesn't make sense. So
okay. All right. The next show that we're going to be talking about is Hakata Tonkotsu Ramens.
Oh, this one. You know, I tried to think about it. I honestly did. I tried to think I tried to think if there was an anime since we've started this that I have just said no about. Like immediately I'm just like no. And there's been very few, honestly. There really has. Like, and honestly, I usually, if I start something, I usually finish it. This is just one of those. I just don't think I can do it. Honestly, I mean, there's probably in the entire time, and we've done how many episodes? 34 episodes. 34 episodes of this. So that's at least what? Because we do 3 episodes. We're talking about like 10 seasons or 11 seasons, basically, of shows. That's a lot of shows. I've maybe had like 4 or 5 that I've had in that entire time that I can think of that I've just said no after watching like the first episode. This is gonna be one of them. This is gonna be one of them. I don't know what it is about this one. I really don't. I think it's oversaturated. It seems like they're just like. I don't know, what is it you think?
Okay, so I feel like it's trying to be like do rah rah rah, where all the characters are all intertwined, but it didn't build anything up yet. It just kind of threw us into the nets. Like, so it's like, so there's the girl in the bottom right corner. It's a dude that's cross-dressing. That was a great reveal because from watching the trailer, I was like, oh, okay, so there's a girl, and there's a bunch of guys, and then he's like, no, I'm a guy. I'm like, whoa, okay.
Surprise!
Yeah, and it was there's one scene with him that was really cool where a guy tried to pocket him, and he's like, hey, you trying to pickpocket me? He's like, oh shit, you're a guy. And she's like, bam. I'm like, that was funny. Other parts of the show where it's like, especially for him, like he's my favorite character. Because I guess he has the most personality. And he's like interacting with the most characters from what I've seen in the first episode. It's like he needs money, but then his job is to get money from people who aren't paying people who they owe. So there's kind of like this weird like, what are they? It's like when you tell like you should do this, but you're not doing that. It's like there's a term for it where you like give people advice, but you're not following your own advice.
Okay. I can follow you. Just go ahead.
Yeah. So so it's like he's doing that, and it's interesting to see a character who's like doing that, because it's like you can see like the ladder is like this person down here owes this one person, this person who they owe money to also owes this other person, and then this person actually owes money to somebody else, so they're coming after. So it's like this weird like never ending ladder, and you're just seeing one person towards the bottom, and you're like it's like it seems kind of hopeless, but it's like let's see how far you can get. And then it's like the hitmen that kill other hitmen. That's also like this weird ladder that can get like crisscrossed and like tied up in each other. And I feel like 2 of the main characters, like they met each other because they're supposed to kill each other, but then they're like, no, let's be friends. And I'm like, it's confusing. It's very hard to follow. Yeah. I wish they had like half a season to like flesh out these characters, because right now they're trying to flesh it out as they're like making the story more complicated, and I am getting lost.
Yeah, and that's saying something, because we're veterans to anime. We've seen some very confusing and convoluted anime in our time, and this just is like even worse than a lot of them out there. It's incredible. It's crazy. Again, I feel like this is another one that has a lot of potential. But it's just I don't even know where to begin with this storyline. It's
like it has no beginning.
No. I don't know where it's starting. I don't know where it's going. Like, if you ask me about like Death March, I could be like, all right, I know where you're going on that. I can see where this is going. I know how you're going to end this. Probably. You might throw a twist in there, granted, but at least I can see where this is going. Or Grancrest. I'm like, well, obviously the dude is going to become really powerful, going to become the victory and become the almighty king or whatever, and he's going to bring peace to everyone. And that's kind of what the mage, I think, is trying to go after. Like, I see that's an end goal. This, I have no idea what the end goal is. I have no idea what they're going for. I'm totally lost.
One thing with the hitman that kills hitmen, they've mentioned that character like 3 times in the first episode, and like with movies, once you mention something a bunch of times, that means it's about to show up. So if it doesn't show up in like the next episode or so, then they're kind of just teasing you.
Yeah.
And like, one thing about the guy in the top left, the guy that reminds me of Spike from Cowboy Bebop. I don't really know where he stands. It feels like he was friends with like a detective or something, but I guess that's just another hitman. And like I think their target was the mayor or something like that. And then the mayor had hired some hitmen to be alongside of him. But then
there's so many hitmen going on.
Yeah, and they're like,
this.
They keep saying, "Oh, this city is a city of like where 3% of the population is all hitmen," and I'm like,
why? I mean, that is my question right there. I would look at that and just be like, why? Why are 3% of the population hitmen? Is there a reason for it?
And I'm like, I feel like everybody, like every character we're introduced to is a hitman. So I'm like, show us some regular people. Like, don't they know some regular people?
Like, every person we've met so far has been a hitman.
Yeah, and they're like always on a job or always like. The
only people that you meet that aren't hitmen are the people they're killing.
Yeah. and sometimes that's not even the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes they're like, they just happen to be killing another hitman. It's weird. One thing that is cool, like there are some cool things about it. Like that one guy character that cross dresses, I like him. The guy that was Spike Spiegel. I like when they were trying to find out if the secretary was a hitman, and like he went to go get that balloon and like pop it. And to see how she reacted, and she acted like, I'm gonna kill somebody. So,
yeah.
so he's like, yeah, she's a hitman too. And I'm like, everybody's a hitman then. So it's really cool how there's like certain aspects of this story that's cool. There's like the hacker guy who can like hack into everything. He's cool, but the overall story is just a mess.
Yeah.
Like
I don't even think they have I don't even think they have a story. We're just like, we're gonna throw a whole bunch of hitmen into a city, like a whole bunch, and let's just see what happens.
And like with a lot of different shows, what they'll do is like the first episode, they'll just cram it full of like all spectacle. They're like, here's all the characters, here's all the crazy stuff. Look how complicated the story could be. And the next episode is just, hey, let's follow one character and like how he like goes through the whole thing. So if they're doing it like that, then I'm like, I guess it's okay, but I don't think they are. Just by how the first episode left off, they're like, oh, we're gonna team up and like double cross some more hitmen, and I'm like, okay, good luck with all that. So yeah, this show's confusing. All right, the next show we're gonna be talking about is Karakai Jouzu no Takagi-san. It does not have an English name. Basically, I call this show Girl Teases Boy and They Like Each Other.
You just sum up the whole story right there?
Basically.
Okay. Next one. Good to go. Animation on this, at least from that picture, it looks really weird.
It is. They have like light bulb heads.
I know. I'm like, why are the heads circles? I feel like they took a basketball and put it on somebody's neck and then just painted it like tan color and gave him a wig. I'm like, there you go. That's your life now. Have fun.
So this anime is really, really cute. It's one of those ones where it's like the high school romance where the two characters, they do like each other, but they don't. It's like, does she like me or does he like her? And it's one of the things where they're interacting, they're best friends and they like each other, but it's like that whole step of like making it official is not really on the table. They think about it, but they're not actually like thinking about like acknowledging stuff. It's one of the things where I don't think they're gonna like at the pace that it's going. I don't think they'll ever like try to become a couple because then it'll turn into a romance. Right now it's basically,
so they're just really, really good friends.
Yes, they are the best of friends, and she loves teasing him. Like, she's crying, laughing multiple times a day because she's always outsmarting him. He is always getting flustered. He is always plotting to get her back. And it always fails. It's so funny to watch. At some points, his plan is boring. And you kind of get like, okay, how is she going to outsmart him this time? And you're like, I think she's going to do this. And then you have to just wait for it to happen. Other times, she gets to jump on you and she gets to jump on him. And you're like, nice. That was good because I didn't think about it yet. And it happened before I could figure it out. So, one of my favorite ones is he's basically trying to build a jack-in-the-box out of paper. So he builds this little box thing and with a lid that opens. And then he's sitting here folding these two little strips of paper like over each other to kind of make a spring.
Yeah.
And he has his book up, so he's like, you can't see me. And she's like, hey, what you doing? And he's like, nothing. And he's like sitting here like, yeah, I'm going to get her so good. And then he's like almost done building it. It's taken him like 30 minutes to build this thing. And then she's over here like, she has her pencil box and she's like, trying to open it. And he's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I don't know. I kind of dropped my pencil box and it dented and I can't get it open. And he's like, oh, let me see it. And then he opens it and she built the jack-in-the-box inside of it. And it was like, and he's like, ah! And then the teacher's like, hey, shut up. Like, or not that mean, but he's like yelling at him the entire day because she's always like making him go, ah, in the middle of class. And that was like the best one. Like, she immediately, like, you didn't see her like planning it or anything. She was just like, got the drop on him right off the bat. And I was like, good job. There are other ones that are like, it's kind of a slow build up and you already know that, like there, yeah, like let's say, if there's these, you know how they always, like, there's these like romantic myths where it's like, oh, if you go into the building and with the person that you like and like spend the whole night, you'll have a great relationship kind of thing. Well, there's this one thing where it's like, if you write the name of the person that you have a crush on your eraser and use up the whole eraser, then you'll have a good relationship. So she was like, I left my eraser at home. Can I borrow yours? And then she takes it and then she tells him that myth. And then he's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then she's like, looks at the eraser and looks at him. And she's like, uh-huh. And then like slowly starts pulling it out. And she's like, uh-huh. And he's like, oh, did I write somebody's name on that? He's like, oh no. She's gonna, oh my God, if I wrote somebody's name, it's gonna be her name. She's gonna find out. Let me get it. And like, she pulls it out and there's nothing on there, of course. But he's all like, no, give me. Then the teacher gets pissed at him again. So then he gives up. Oh no, he snatches it from her and then like, all that kind of stuff, and makes a bunch of noise. So then she's like laughing at him like crazy, and then she like has her hand on the desk, and then she sits up and she has her eraser. He's like, you had your eraser the whole time. She's like, yeah, it was just really funny to make fun of you. And then so then she's like, oh, teacher, I gotta go to the bathroom. So then she leaves. Then he's like, I wonder if she has somebody's name written on hers. So then he like waits for her to like get out of the hallway and like snatches it, and then he slowly starts pulling it up, and like he sees something that whatever symbol he sees, like the first letter, and it's not him, like his first name or last name. So he's like, oh, it's not me, crap, and he's kind of getting all depressed, and then he's like, well, let me at least find out who it is, and he pulls it out, and it says, look in the hallway. And then he looks over, and she's like watching him the whole time because she knew he was gonna try to read it. And he's like, like super embarrassed. And then she gets back and she's laughing at him again. And then she gets her eraser back. And then what was it? He's like, why do you keep teasing me? He's like, I don't know. She's like, I don't know. But it's like, you had a 50% chance of seeing what I wrote, and you didn't. And then kind of pulls the eraser back out of the thing. On the other side of the eraser was actually somebody's name. And I wasn't sure if it was his name or not because I don't know his name. I barely know names of characters. So I was like, was that his name? That would have been funny. But she's like, and then goes on to the next thing. And I'm like, so the show is really funny. It's really cute. I'm gonna definitely like continue this show. It makes me laugh. So
Fair enough.
yeah. The next show we're gonna be talking about is a completely different switch. It is called Killing Bites. It is on Prime. Yes, okay. Amazon Prime. So basically this show is a fight to the death with half human, half animal creatures, people, whatever they are, beings.
Talk about this in the upcoming enemies.
We mentioned that there was a really really ecchi show, and I thought it was this one, but it's not. You okay. Mentioned the other one.
Yeah, no, that was completely different.
Yeah,
I remember that one.
Yeah, so this one's.
I was looking at going Killing Bites. I'm like, for this.
So, I went into this show pretty much expecting boobs, butts, and blood, but not as much boobs and butts as I thought. So I'm like, hey, how about actually get into this show? It's actually like a fight to the death, like a fight of the week kind of show. The characters that you started following at the beginning, I absolutely hated them. They kidnapped this high school girl thinking it was like she was just off by herself, with no, like, just a girl out at night off by herself, and she ends up being one of the Killing Bites people. She like halfway transforms and like slaughters all of them. During that whole encounter, you meet one of the main guys, and he's like a guy who just has terrible friends and someone who's kind of just weak and not like strong-willed. So he like basically a bunch of crappy dudes peer pressure this guy into driving his dad's van or something off, like off in like out in the woods or something like that. They abduct this girl, they all get slaughtered, and then he ends up being caught in this like battle between monsters that's being bet on by these really, really high profile, like, yeah, basically. Overall, thinking about like just the overall way I think this story is gonna go, it's kind of interesting. It's basically it's the style of show that's like Fate. It's the style of show that's like what's that? It's basically regular person and super being fighting against other regular people and super being. And I don't think it's going to turn into a harem like some of the other shows like this are. I don't think it's going to be as interesting or as cool as Fate, but I think it's going to be interesting enough.
So it's not a bad show, but it's not a great show either.
Yeah, like the fighting could be better. The stories, it's like just stuff to get to the next fight. So I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I like the character designs, so I'm kind of like interested to see, because I think this girl's like some kind of like, I want to say she's like a badger or something, like the name of a creature that I have never heard of. It's like a specific like type of creature, and I'm like, is it a badger? I don't know. That's the closest thing I can think of. It has a name, and they said it a bunch of times, but I'm like, I've never heard of that animal before. It looks like a badger, so I'm gonna just call it a badger. There was a lion guy that she fought, and she beat him. There's like a bunny girl, which I'm like, how does she kick really hard? Like, I don't get it. There's a leopard girl, so I'm like, okay, feline claws, that's cool. And there's a few other ones that I'm like, I'm interested to see how they fight. Once I find out how they fight, then I just gotta wait for the episode to end, because the fights are somewhat repetitive. Like the lion dude, he has this like a million punch barrage. So he's like, one thing that was cool is like it's not 100% predictable. Like they got they went against my expectations a few times. So like she's talking and she's like, she's like doing her monologue, and he's like, bah! Just like cuts her monologue off and just like just beating her into the ground. And I'm like, that was funny. I was like, you cut off the monologue, good job. And then they start fighting, and it kind of goes back and forth, and then he's like, again. I'm like, okay, it's the same move. That's fine. And then they fight different way, and then it brrr again, and then she like bites off 2 of his fingers, and he's like, ah. And I'm like, you should probably not use that same move over and over again. And he's like, brrr, and I'm like, so I'm like, the fights are interesting at first, but then they show all of their cards like right off the bat, or at least this first fight did. And meanwhile, the guy who got wrapped up in all of this, he's like trying to escape, but because their fight is so like wild, he's like, oh, let me climb up this thing. And they're all like, brrr. Like, okay, let me go over here. Goes over there, and they're all like, oh, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna just sit here until it's over. So there are interesting parts. I like the character designs. The story is kind of just getting you from one fight to another, and the first fight was kind of repetitive. So I'm like, it's an okay show. I'm very curious to see what the other characters are going to be like, because the character designs are so cool. And then it does that weird thing that, like, at first I was classifying these shows as like kid shows where they have that like narrator. Like, it's like, oh, I'm gonna just call her the Badger. She's the Badger. And they pull completely away from the show and be like, a Badger is this type of character. They're usually strong against this, and some of them fight lions. And then they cut back to the fight where this type of Badger is fighting a lion. And I'm like, that was some interesting information. How come? Yeah. I'm like, couldn't you have like gave me some backstory? And they're like she was in an accident, like the main girl that's the Badger, half Badger, she was like in some kind of tragic accident and she's about to die, so they're like, we can splice her with some kind of animal so she could be your fighter. And he's like, okay, well, what do we have? And he's like, well, the Badger, it can do like this, or like work it into the story somehow. Don't like cut away and narrate it, because then I'm like, that completely pulled me out of the show. So I know they're going to do that in the next one. They're like, the rabbit, it can kick really. I'm like, come on. So, so I was like, yeah, this show is 100% okay. I'm going to keep watching it just to see what the other fights are like. But it's definitely not on my hype list.
Fair enough.
All right. The next show we're going to be talking about is Love is Like After the Rain, or Koi wa Amiagari no Yoni. So, this is also on
you know what?
Amazon
Prime can have this one. I'm okay with that.
So, this is a slice of life.
Oh yeah, I remember you talking about this one.
And I now see what you were talking about, because you're like, in the trailer, it's like a girl looking sad on a bus, a girl looking sad in a class, a girl looking sad in a restaurant. And I'm like, I'm watching it, and I'm like, yeah, she does look sad.
And there she is on a bus, and there she is in a restaurant.
So,
that's how the whole story goes. She just looks sad.
So I definitely see where you got that from. I have a little bit of backstory because I watched it. So basically, she used to be a track star. She used to be like team captain, and because of I think in the synopsis went over this, but it says because of an accident, she had to give up track. So now she's kind of like, I guess, finding her purpose in life now. So she's kind of like, it seems like she's kind of just wandering from one thing to another. Her daily life, it consists of going to class and kind of being sad because she can't join in on the track and everything. And like all of her teammates are like, man, we wish you could join us. Or they're like, oh, we won this last competition and all that kind of stuff. And she like gives feedback, like she's like gives advice from the other teams and stuff like that. Cause then you can tell that she was like one of the top athletes. So I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. That's really cool. Yeah. Then she goes to work at a family restaurant. I'm trying to figure out like it's kind of like a Denny's. Like, would you consider Denny's like a family restaurant? Like, I would assume like I'm like, because I don't eat out all the time, like all restaurants are family restaurants to me, unless it's like Hooters.
Probably what the best I could say would be like Wignaria from Working.
Yeah, exactly. It's a store just like Wagnaria, but I guess it's a Japanese term where they're like, oh, let's go to a family restaurant. And like, I guess there's like Like there's family restaurants, there's regular restaurants, and there's like no, not family restaurants.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So she works at a family restaurant, and she's in love with her boss. Now, one thing that I was kind of weary about was the age gap, because they said the boss is 45 and he has a son, and she is a high schooler. If you calculate that, he's anywhere from 2.5 to 3 times her age. So numerically speaking, I'm like, absolutely not. If she was my daughter, I'm like, absolutely not. For some reason, the way this show goes about it, I'm like, I don't know. The style of this show is very unique. Like, the characters are like very expressive. It reminds me of something kind of like the Studio Ghibli type of stuff. Like, you see the character's face and you can see their personality just by looking at their face. And you're like, oh, okay, they're kind of mischievous. Or like, oh, okay, he's like very, very energetic because his hair kind of like shoots back. Like he's like, it's just energy. And you're like, oh, okay, he's the hyper guy. Like, I really, really, really like the character designs in this show because of like how expressive they describe the character and the way that they look. The boss of the show is a very silly, very punny, very clumsy, old, just you look at him and you just see the word dad jokes. You're like, okay. So until one scene, I was like, this dude is a goof. Like, I don't get it. And there's this one scene where somebody two girls are talking, and like, she's like, what do you think about the boss? And like, he was like, as he was walking around the corner, like, what do you think about the boss? And he's like, kind of just backs up behind the corner, and he's like, oh crap, what do I do? Because this door goes outside the restaurant, and then this way is into their conversation. So he's like, do I walk around the restaurant, come into the front door and be all weird? Or do I just kind of like hide out here until the conversation's over? And like, they start talking about him and saying like, I think he's like in his head, so he's not hearing anything. And then she said that he kind of smells. And then he heard that part and was like, oh, guys, excuse me. I was just taking out the trash, and kind of like just like goes through the conversation, like tries to get out of there. So he kind of takes that to heart. He's like, okay. And he goes and changes his shirt. And then as he's like getting ready to go back into work, he like remembers some of the awkward situations, because he's trying to be the cool guy and like one, be the boss, but then also be the cool guy, and then also be funny. And it's like he's like taking mental notes. So there was one situation where like he told a bad joke, and like it just bombed. And he's like, okay, no more sock jokes. And then as he's like changing his shirt because somebody said that he's kind of smelly, and then he goes back in, and it's like, it's cool to see like him kind of like collecting his thoughts and like trying to like, I guess, make everybody happy, but then he ends up just coming off awkward. He's always apologizing to customers and stuff like that. And I feel like none of the stuff that he's apologizing for is his fault. It's because like one dude was like, all my food's burnt. and he goes back to the kitchen and he's like, hey, could you make this again? And you look at it, it's like freaking charcoal. And I'm like, what the hell is the cook doing? Like, he just doesn't care about his job. And
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm trying to figure out these characters. Like, why do they keep this one guy here and he's like burning food? And then because of the way I see the boss interacting with everybody, I think he's like, okay, so you kind of messed this up, but next time let's make it good. We could do that, right? And he's like trying to please the guy who's burning all the food, so he could stay there, or so the guy can like him. But then he has to like apologize to the customer, and I'm like, it's so weird. Like, the more I think about it, like, why everybody's like so weird. And like, there's this older lady, and she's like, kind of, quit being a pushover. Like, she's like, one, scolding him, but then two, also kind of like talking behind his back to like the other people. Like, look at this silly, he's apologizing again. And it's a really cool dynamic between like all of the like the staff members at the restaurant, and then you meet like the girl. She comes into the restaurant, and she works there and everything, and she just does her job like normal and everything, and she's kind of like just stern and like just does her job, and she's not like like just happy like kind of customer that you see like stereotypically in anime. But then every time she encounters the boss, she kind of like stares at him like intently, and he's like, "Is there something on my face?" And then she's like just staring at him, and he's like,
Go.
Exactly. And if anything weird happens, then like her stare changes, which is like really funny. There's this one part where she finds out that he has a kid, I guess because the situation that he had with his kid didn't work, so he had to bring his kid to work. So his kid was in the break room, and somebody had like mentioned like, oh, his kid's here, and then the girl, she's automatically assumed that he's married. So then now she's mad, and she's like, crap. The person who I like is the Mary. So now when he looks at it, like when he comes across her, she's just like angry staring at him. And he's like, I'm sorry, what did I do? And she just stares at him, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go. And then she finds out that the mother is no longer in the picture. I can't remember if the mother had passed away or they just got divorced or whatever. But she finds out that, oh, he's not married. So then her gaze kind of lightens a little bit, and it's kind of like a puppy dog stare. So like he comes across her again, she's like, and he's like, I see you're in a better mood now. I'm still gonna go. So it's really, really cool. Like their interaction. There's one point where she goes on break and like the kid's there, and he finished doing his math homework or whatever homework he's doing. But then he's like, now it's time for music homework, and he pulls out a recorder. And he's just like, wah, 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 in the restaurant. And I'm like, has his dad not told him that he needs to be quiet? I'm like, from what I've seen about how the way he interacts with all of his employees, I'm pretty sure he lets his son do whatever he wants. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So then he like turns into dad mode, and he like busts into the break room. He's like, ah! He's like, hey, I told you not to make that music at the. It's like, where I'm in the restaurant, or whatever. And then he like leaves, and then the kid's like, and right before he blows up the recorder again, the girl stops him, and like she's like, no, you need to be quiet. And then it cuts away to the restaurant, and then when you cut back, like he comes back, he's like, it's really quiet. Now I'm kind of worried. So then he goes to check back on his son, and the girl has taken them outside to the back of the restaurant where they throw the trash, and she's like teaching him how to actually play a recorder properly. And she's like just playing a song, and then she hands it to him, and then he's like, oh, okay. He's playing it properly. And he had just come out the back door and like checked on him, and he's like, I've never seen her smile. He's like, cool. And then he notices that that she's teaching him, and he's like, oh, nice. And then he like closed the door and like sneaks off. So I really, really like the show. The characters are really unique, and it's one of them things where it's like everything has a reason from like the stuff that I'm seeing, or at least I'm figuring out a reason that's probably close to accurate. So yeah, I really, really, really like this show. I still don't approve of the relationship stuff. It's mostly one-sided, so I'm okay with it for now. But if it does change, it needs to be a really, really, really good reason. Because like I'm open to it because of how like cute and playful the show is. But I'm still kind of like, it's a little stretch.
Gotta give you a purpose for it.
Yeah, it's a stretch. It's a really, really big stretch. So, yeah. Oh, and the show is gorgeous. Like the trailer, I feel like the trailer like put its best foot forward. Like in every cut, they're like, we had our best animator work on every cut of this trailer. But then when you watch it, not only does it look very nice, it moves very nice. It's not as spectacularly gorgeous as the trailer was, but it's still really, really nice. I think this show is made by Madhouse. So I think there's a couple of shows that are made by Madhouse, and I want to say this is one of them, but I'm not 100%. But if it's not made by Madhouse, then I'm like, it fooled me. So yeah, I really like this show.
Gotcha.
All right. The next show we're going to be talking about is Kokkoku. Moment by moment.
This is one I wanted to see.
Yep.
It's on Amazon.
Yep. So Amazon.
I did not know.
So yeah, this is another Amazon Prime show. Basically everything that happened in the synopsis happened in this first episode. So after that, I have no idea what's gonna happen next, and I'm very excited to see because this show is great. The character designs are very, very similar to Mezzo Forte. I'm not sure if the same people are working on this, but they are really they are somebody who worked on Mezzo Forte is definitely working on this, or it's a really, really good homage. I am not sure. The show is violent. It is not predictable for me.
Just looking at the trailer, I was like, I have no idea why any of this is happening.
Yeah.
It's completely crazy. But yeah.
Yeah. So, it's like I've talked to like another person about the details of this because I wanted to talk about it. And since you haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil that first episode. Even though most of it's explained, there's like little things here and there that are like really, really cool about it. But basically, I'll just go over the parts that we had talked about in the upcoming episode, and it's basically, let's see. So, I'm trying to think where that line is. So basically, the main character that's in the picture.
Let's just say what I remember from what we talked about before.
Yeah.
And the upcoming was the son and the father gets kidnapped or something.
Yes.
And they only have a very limited amount of time in order to get money to the kidnappers.
Yes.
But the grandfather, some reason or other, has some sort of magical ability to where he can freeze time, essentially.
Yes.
And they kind of work outside of time.
Yes.
And in the trailer, it looked like they went to the place where they were being held, and there was some sort of monster there as well.
Yes.
So I have no idea why the monster is there or what it pertains to, but
yes. Okay. So, the main girl, which is in the picture, the father and the son are basically her brother and her nephew. She's the responsible one in the family. Everybody else is kind of just getting by, and she wants to live in the city. She's gone to tons and tons of interviews, and she went to like 19 interviews and got turned down by every single one, and then she ended up going back home just like
dejected.
Yes, dejected. And on her way home, someone asked her to pick up her nephew from the from daycare or from elementary school, and she agrees. And then when she gets home, she tells the father that like, get off your butt, go playing games, go get him. On their way home, they get abducted and like they get abducted very abruptly. It was a really, really cool scene. And as soon as they get to the place, they immediately call the family and demand a lot of money. Absurd amount of money in 30 minutes. And they're like, the grandfather, like all of the the ages, I'm speaking from the son because he's the latest generation. The grandfather, which is the main character's dad, has the money, and he plans on going there. Somebody else has the car, so they can't make it there. She grabs a knife, wraps it up in cloth, puts it in her pocket, and she's about to just storm over there. She's like, I'm gonna be late, but I'm gonna get there, and somebody's gonna pay. The great grandfather, like stops both of them and tells them to come to this into this one room, his room, I guess. He pulls out this yellow stone, which you've seen in the trailer, and tells everybody to put their hand on it. He uses the knife from the girl, cuts his hand, drops some blood into the stone. It hits a certain part and enacts this ritual. That ritual freezes time. Now they have all the time in the world. They walk over. Oh, as they're going, basically this studio is like flexing their 3D muscle, and they're like, look at this butterfly. Ugh. and then like, look at this bike. Ugh. And then look at this beach. Ugh. And doing like these 360s around the thing. And I'm like, okay, you could have just stopped at the second one. So, they get there. They try to, what was it? The girl gets pissed because she like sees who's actually abducting them, and she grabs the knife and starts heading towards the guy. There's something in that room, and as she gets closer to the guy, and the madder she gets, it starts to materialize, and then the great grandfather sees it, calms her down, and it kind of dissipates. They grab the kid and son, go downstairs, and people walk into the building. The entire
supposed to be frozen.
Yes, these people have dead eyes, just the beadiest little eyes, and they are super serious, and you're like, something's definitely gonna happen. And it does, and then the monster shows back up, and then the episode's over. And I'm like, what? So, everybody watch this. This show is awesome. Yeah.
Okay, well, I already knew I wanted to. Now I definitely want to. And now that I know it's on Prime, I'll definitely have the opportunity to do so.
Yep.
I just feel sorry for the people who don't have Prime.
It's going to be hard to find. Basically, search for the name of the show.
Gotcha.
And then once you search for... If you search for Beatless, the results will show all of the shows. If you search for, like, Kokkoku, it'll show Kokkoku, and then it'll show, like, one of the other shows. Their search system is weird. Once you find...
Say what you were going to say. I could tell what you were going to say when you said that. Say what you were going to say. What's their search engine?
It's
not
garbage.
There you go. There you go.
For those who don't know how it works, including myself, if you search for anime, it doesn't show up. If you search for new releases, it doesn't show up. If you search for, like, Märchen Mädchen, it'll show, like, basically they added 5 in a certain order, like shows 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you search for show 3, it'll show you 3, 4, and 5, but not 1 and 2. If you search for show 2, it'll show you 2 through 5, but not 1. If you search for 1, then the next results are that show. I'm like, why do those shows show up if they're not named what I'm searching for? Yeah. So.
Thank you. Thanks, Amazon.
So, at least when they had all the anime in one box, they could be like, recently added. And it's like, these are all the shows. But because there is an anime section. I don't know why it's not tagged anime. It's so weird. Anyway. So, yes, Kokkoku, moment by moment. It's a great show. Check it out. Alright. The next show we're going to be talking about is The Ancient Magus' Bride, or Mahotsukai no Yome.
I mean, it's at this point we're pretty much still continuing from where we left off. Things are still slowly degrading with the main character. You get to know a little, and I do mean a little bit more, about the main character, or the Magus.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, I mean, we're still just following along with Chisei and trying to learn how she's not going to die from the fact that she is what she is.
Yeah. Basically.
So, and from there, I mean, we're still meeting characters, seeing things. At this point, I believe she's now even gone into the fairy world.
Okay.
Because there was an incident where she overused herself. And it was quite critical of her health. So the only place that she could go to was the fairy world, because time reacts differently there, and she can heal appropriately.
Okay.
And they did have a healer there who was actually somewhat human, so understood the human physiology, but also understood her situation. So it was probably the best person to be able to try to get her back up to where she needed to be at.
Okay.
So that happened. Basically, I kind of feel like the story and the way it goes almost feels like, to me, kind of like the way Natsume did.
Okay.
Because it's very much a slice of life, but we have these little incidents that occur along the way, and they just kind of all coalesce in between each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a matter of just all these characters that she kind of comes across, all these magical entities and beings. And I guess, and somewhere along the way, we're just kind of seeing the Magus is trying to understand humanity, because he obviously is not. He's trying to understand humanity. And Chise is basically becoming the teacher to him of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So we have caught up to, at this point, where the little 3-episode excerpt before the whole season started has now happened.
Okay.
And I think in one of the episodes it did kind of do a flashback of that and just go, okay, this happened. Now you know.
Okay.
So now you know, like, all right, this is where that happened. Now we're all cut up. Now we can continue. But yeah, no, the story itself, I'm, always captivated and interested to see what happens next. Seeing the interesting creatures, there's always something interesting to see, from talking cats to Oberon to, you actually now find out who the maid is, the one that's been at the house.
Oh, cool.
You actually get to find out what she is and the reason why she doesn't talk.
Okay.
I should have realized that when that came to that point of thinking she never says anything.
Mm-hmm.
There must be a reason why. And yes, there's a very good reason why. You probably would think about it if you knew, because, you think about it, they're in what is the equivalent of England,
Mm-hmm.
like old England, kind of, in the countryside. So that's kind of close to, like, Ireland in that area and whatnot. If you think about what mythology can't speak or shouldn't speak because it could cause issues and problems. I'm sure you think of a mythological creature in that regards, and you're probably right. That's
okay.
what she is. But everything, even though there's a lot of things going on, they do explain themselves, which I appreciate. You do kind of get caught up. So when Chise had to go to the fairy world for a while, you kind of stuck with the maid, and that's when you got to learn her backstory, sort of. And you also saw the fact that seasons were passing where she was, but where Chise and the Magus were, it was like the matter of like maybe a couple weeks. But because time reacts differently in different realms, that's why that happened, kind of thing.
Okay.
So, which is kind of cool. But yeah, it's really interesting to watch. It's interesting to see. The characters are always great. The magic that they do is always something special. You want to know more about the Magus. I want to know what he is, because he is something very specific. And he is very old, very ancient, and very powerful. Even from the previous season, one of the wizards Maguses that he got taken to couldn't identify what he was.
Yeah.
The closest that we can come up with is that he is, at least in some part, Fae. At least in some part. But even the Fae don't even know who he is exactly, or what he is.
Okay.
So, and it was interesting because at one point Titania actually asks him, why don't you stay here? Why don't you stay in this realm? When he was there in their realm, he's like, why don't you stay here? Because it would benefit her, it would benefit you. I see no reason, and of course Puck was over there being aghast about the fact that she was inviting potentially a human and him into their realm. She was quite dead serious. She wants them, and I don't think it's out of maliciousness. I think she honestly cares and wants to show that, wants to help him. And he refused. But he refused for what I figured was a very good reason. And to him, he's like, all of you either are aghast by me or you pity me. He's like, humans have been the only ones who they do show some fear for me, but they've also accepted me. And they're the only ones who have. And I wish to understand that more. I wish to be able to get that more. And he's like, I can't do that here. I have to be over there in order to do that. So there's a lot going on. And I think the more you kind of feel for Chise, and you want to, because she's having that issues that she has, but also like you see like there is something developing between her and the Magus. Okay. And it's very hard to explain or to think of that in that such way, because here you have what is essentially a human with great magical powers, but a human, and then you have something that is very definitely not human. and trying to have some sort of relationship kind of in there, and it's very awkward. But I think that's, you can't have a relationship like that without there being some awkwardness in between that. So yeah, no, it's very interesting. I thoroughly enjoy it. For any of you out there who have not watched this anime, highly recommend you doing so. I would love to see this anime just blow up and just, even after this season, because I think this ends at the end of this season. I would love to see it continue and see where they can go even further with it. So, yep.
Cool. Yes, I definitely loved the first season of the show. I haven't started this season yet because I kind of want to just watch the whole thing through. So I'm putting it off for a little bit. Yeah, this show was really, really great, and I'm glad that I'm glad that it caught up to the OVA, and then I'm also glad that it's getting another core because the first core was great, and I'm definitely interested to see what's gonna happen in the next core.
Oh, absolutely.
So everybody, like you said, just definitely check this one out. It is on Crunchyroll. Everybody can get it. Unlike this next show. The next show we're gonna be talking about is Märchen Mädchen. This is another show that is on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, this was another one that I was interested to see what would happen with this one. I don't remember which one it was. I can't remember until I saw the picture pop up. Yes. Just out of curiosity, in comparison with Cardcaptor, are we about on the same level with just like magical girlness, or is this on a completely different stage? Okay, because I was a little confused when they explained what was going on this one, because it sounded like it was gearing up to be another magical girl anime.
No, yeah, the synopsis definitely seemed like it was like that, because it was like, this one has the power of the Matchstick Girl, this one has the power of Little Riding Hood, and like it seemed like it was going that way. But the way the story is revealing itself is it's pretty interesting. Nobody in the first episode, nobody has talked about which books do what. You just find out that basically this girl is somewhat special. She ended up seeing a character who was hiding themselves with like some kind of force field or aura or something like that, and she noticed the girl and followed her into this dark alley, which of course that's the safest place on earth. Oh, so then the girl kind of like confronted her, and she's like, "You can see me," and like quit following me, go away. And then she ended up following her into this library. Oh, the girl, she jumped on top of the building and jumped on a broom and like kind of just flew away. And the other girl, and then when she did that, she ended up dropping her bag of some, like the reason why she came to the human world, I guess, or this dimension. And the other girl's like, "You forgot your bag!" So she's like tracing her across the city, like, "Your bag!" And she's trying like just across the city to this library. And the girl goes to the library, and she's like at this one book, like opens up this portal and jumps in. And then the other girl was like trying to find out which book do I push to open that portal. And then she had went to the she has this weird thing whenever she gets embarrassed, she like grabs a book and reads to kind of like alleviate the situation. And one thing that was kind of weird is like somebody was talking to her, asking her a bunch of questions. She's like, and just runs off. She runs to a bookstore, buys like 5 books, and then just like goes somewhere and just starts reading. She's like, okay, and it calms down. And I'm like, one, how often does this happen? And 2, are you going to like a discount bookstore? Because I'm like, you must have a lot of money to where every awkward situation you go buy like 5 new books. So that was kind of weird.
I mean, maybe she just didn't have a book on her at that time. Maybe she usually keeps one on her at least.
Yeah.
And she didn't have one, and an awkward situation came up, so she just overreacted and went, "I need a book now!" And goes and runs and gets a book.
Yeah.
It's 5.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about that is when she checked her bag, she ended up having this extra big book. So she's like, "Oh, that's weird," and just kept it in her bag. So when she chases after that girl and goes to the library and starts like trying to find out which book opens up the portal, that new book that she didn't buy starts glowing. And she's like, oh, picks up the book and the portal opens and just sucks her right in. From the trailer, you would think that she lands in the pool. Lands in like the bathhouse or something and splash. And then somehow she loses her clothes and she's running around naked like in the trailer. Nope. She lands flat on the ground. Just bam! I'm like, she's dead. Series over. She comes across one girl that's like, hey, who are you? And like, she ends up like running away from her because the girl's chasing her with a sword or some kind of weapon. I can't remember. Or she's just scary. Then she ends up coming across this lady who works at a bathhouse, and she's like, I don't know where I am. Like, there's this portal and all the book, and she's like, okay, shh. She's like, come with me. And then in the next scene, she's taking a bath, and I'm like, she was trying to go back home, I think. Like, so then the girl, yeah. And I'm like, shh, don't worry. And then all of a sudden she's in the bath. I'm like, what did that lady do to her? Mind control her? Like, you need a bath. So, yeah. So then that girl that was chasing her before catches up to her. And that's where she's running around naked with a book in front of her. And I'm like, that's where this scene comes from. Okay. Then she ends up running into this big open area where all the other students or people in this building are, and they're like, why does she have a book? Why is she naked? Blah, blah, blah. And then a bunch of crazy stuff happens, and the principal shows up and talks to her. And I think other stuff happened in the episode, or it ends there. All I know is that this series is very silly. And
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know where the stories come in. Everybody keeps talking about, oh, you have a rare book. And I'm like, I've seen a couple other books, and I guess her is more rarer than the other people's special books. I don't know where the powers go into, but the one girl that's been chasing her is kind of cool. She's kind of awkward and cool. That Jedi mind trick bath lady's cool.
Certain things you just don't ever think to hear together.
Yeah.
And Jedi power bath lady is just not one of those things you'd ever think to hear together. But there it is.
Yeah. I'm gonna continue this one. This one seems interesting. I want to see where the stories tie in. I don't know all of the stories that they mentioned in the synopsis, but I kind of want to see like where the ones that I do know kind of like play into the story. And the animation is really nice, so I'm definitely gonna keep this one up.
On Amazon, right?
Yep, Amazon Prime. Alright. The next show we're going to be talking about is Overlord Season 2.
Kind of on the fence, honestly.
What? I've only seen the first episode, so...
Like, I get where it's coming from. Like, in the first season, we just kind of got thrown into this world, and we just kind of had to accept a lot of things and just go along with a lot of things. In this season, so far at least, I think I'm only like 3 episodes in, they are trying to give you a little more backstory about the world. Mm-hmm. We're like, okay, we want to explain some things as to why this is happening, why that is happening, who these people are, how they, because you know who the main character is, you know this guy, you just don't know everybody else. Mm-hmm. A lot of people in this world that are moving around, you have no clue about whatsoever.
Yeah. And
you need to know. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, cool. But when you compare it to the first season,
yeah,
it just seems so slow. We were like running, it's like the difference between driving a Lamborghini and driving a Prius. We're still getting there. It's gonna take longer, but we're still getting there, I'm just like, come on, guys. I wanted to... So, like, and the 3 episodes I've seen, it seems like their primary focus is the Lizardman. It's like 2 or 3 episodes of nothing but that. Because I remember in the final episode of the first season, he mentions the fact that he wants to bolster his army. And we all know if a necromancer wants to bolster his army, it means only one thing. People are going to die. And they're going to get resurrected as undead. Because that's what necromancers do. So I see where that comes into play. But we're taking a really long time at this one part. And I'm just curious if there's going to be a payoff at the end of this, or if we're just going to be like, well, he killed them all, and now he resurrected them. Okay, end of story. It's just, I'm just like, unless there is a purpose behind the fact that we're taking so long. We're learning about one of the Lizardmen tribe. We're learning about their ecology and how they run, and we're seeing that one of them's now getting a relationship with another lizard person from another clan and whatnot. And now they're joining all the clans together to fight against evil, which is essentially the Overlord. And I do like the fact that now we're kind of like getting into that thought process of he's really not a nice guy. He's really not a nice guy. But come on, he's a necromancer, essentially. He raises dead, and he shows no remorse in killing people and things. So obviously, he's not the greatest of guys. He's definitely what you would call an anti-hero, if that. But again, yeah, it's like I wanted to see more. I wanted to just I as much as I enjoy knowing more about the world that he is in and how this all relates, the fact that they're taking so long on this one part is just killing me. And I'm just like, come on. There are other things, there are other factors at work. Why are we focused on Lizardmen, of all things? If it was like one episode, one and done, I'd have been fine with that. But now we're literally going on like 3 episodes of just nothing but this. And I'm like, oh, come on. This is starting to bore me now. I mean, it's not nearly as fast-paced or entertaining as the first season was. So, I don't know. Like I said, I'm on the fence. I'm hoping there's going to be a payoff at the end of this, but it's taking a while, and I don't know if there is. So, yeah. I love the series. I love this. Big D, you can totally vouch for me on this. I love the series, but the second season is just it's killing me right now. It's killing me. So, it's nice to see some of the, characters that I know, his generals, their interactions. Great to see that. And, it's like seeing old friends. You're like, hey, that dude. Hey, there's that guy. That was pretty much the first episode, basically, in a nutshell right there. It's just like, this is what this guy's been doing. This is what this guy's been doing. This is what this guy's been doing. You're like, oh, hey, yeah, I remember you. Oh, hey, how's it going? And after that, it just becomes all about the Lizardmen. And I'm just sad to say I'm kind of getting bored with it. So, anyways, that's my thought on it so far.
Okay. So yeah, I've only seen the first episode, so I was definitely in the whole, hey, I remember him, I remember her.
They introduced some cool new characters, though, in the first episode, I will say that, too.
Yeah.
Ones that I think that's what really pissed me off the most, that we ventured over to these Lizardmen, but in the first episode, they showed some really cool and really potentially powerful people that I'm like, oh, I want to see him or her in the Overlord fight. That'd be freaking awesome. And then we've dropped that completely, and we haven't gone back to it.
Yeah.
Damn it.
So it's like Overlord 2, the lizarding.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. I could tell on Crunchyroll. It's like I saw the first screenshot. I think it was a lizard, and then the second one was a lizard, and the third one was a lizard, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But one thing for me, I kind of want to watch the first series again to kind of like refresh my memory. But then I feel like it's like awesome, lizards.
Yeah. Basically, I mean, do we know how many episodes this is supposed to be?
I want to say it's 12, but
so I mean, if it's 12, that means we spent the first episode doing a recap, and then the next 3 episodes dealing with Lizardmen so far. Not to say we won't even do more than that afterwards. Yeah. So literally a third of this series is already done, and all we're doing is dealing with Lizardmen. I don't appreciate that. I don't appreciate that one bit. Not one bit. So.
Hopefully next episode is no more lizards. Do you feel like the whole lizard saga is over? Or they're just like mid sentence.
Well, like they took one episode to let you know what the problem was, that he was attacking the Lizardmen, and that he was building up kind of an army of undead to do that. Then they spend the next 2 episodes well, I guess 1.5 episodes of the lizard men on their side and gathering up an army, or gathering all the clans of lizard men together to fight against him.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last half of the last episode was a prelude of the battle. Like, okay, now we're attacking. Let's see how this goes. And undead started dying. Lizardmen prevailed. So Lizardmen prevailed.
Oh.
But I don't feel like he put forth like a really big effort.
Yeah.
Because he had the bug general in charge of the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like he kind of was making sure he would fail. Kind of, it seemed. Because he forbid him to be able to go into battle. And so I don't quite know his reasoning behind it. But at the same time, if the lizardmen are still there, we're going to deal with more lizardmen probably the next episode too. At least one more episode, if not two. So, not thrilled. Not thrilled.
Well, yeah, that's sad to hear.
I want him to do more with like the slain theocracy, or dealing with some of the other factions that are involved in this and whatnot. Because the slain theocracy was the only one who was able to actually mind control, or at least partially mind control, the vampire general.
Yeah, they were talking about that in the first episode.
But after that, we've not dealt with any of that. We haven't even dealt with like what Ainz is doing.
Yeah.
Like really, we saw him visit his home base for like a quarter of an episode. He gave some orders, told people to go do things, and then he left. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
After that, it's just been nothing but lizardmen. So I'm disappointed. I'm like, there's so many other things I want to know about, and I want to see done that don't involve lizardmen.
I know you were like super excited. You're like, can't wait. And the first episode ended, you're like, oh, I'm so happy.
Then after that, yeah, because they introduced so many cool characters, and I'm like, that's a cool person, that I think it was the slain theocracy, the girl and the guy who apparently were really powerful meeting, and she's talking about how there's nobody who can stand up to her or whatever, and she's kind of getting bored because and I'm like, oh, I want to see that fight. I want to see what happens there. Because there's going to be a conflict there. It's going to happen. Yeah. And then they're like, well, we're glad you enjoyed that. Now here's some lizardmen. No! It's not what I wanted. Not what I wanted.
Man. All right. Well, we will check back in on the lizardmen in 2 episodes. All right. The last show we're going to be talking about is Yuru Camp Tent.
Big D, take it away.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't have the deltas on this on this slide because I had to figure out a font that would show up in Photoshop. But there is Yuru Camp, and then it was a triangle, and we're like, oh, that's delta. And then I saw the intro, and no, it's a tent. So I'm like, oh. Okay, it's a tent. That makes sense because they're camping. I really, really like this show. It will definitely bore you to tears.
Saying that it's in like general for people or just me?
You.
Okay. I kind of thought so.
It is exactly what we had talked about before. There's this one girl who likes to camp and look at Mount Fuji. And she rode a bike to a campsite and set up a tent and then sat and watched Mount Fuji and read for most of the episode. There were little points where they cut away from that to, she's like, oh, I got to use the restroom. And I'm like, oh, man, she's going to have to find a bush or something. And then she walked over to the building where she rented, where she, paid admission to the camp and, went into the restroom. I'm like, oh. This is modern camping. Okay.
You're like, you gotta use the restroom. You're like, oh, conflict. She's gotta find a place to go. Nope. She just walked right into a building. I'm good.
She just walked right up the hill to the camps, to the administration building, and just went in. And I'm like, oh, it wasn't that far away. So yeah, as she went there, there was like this girl, like laying on a bench in front of the restrooms, and just knocked out. She got her boots off, sitting next to her, and she just curled up in a ball and just drooling all over the bench, just knocked out. And I'm like, okay. Then she goes back to the campsite and starts setting up. It starts getting cold. So then she's like, I need to set up a campfire. So then she starts gathering wood. And then they cut away, and the narrator's like, she's getting pine cones because that's good for kindling. The way you build a proper fire is you get stuff to burn first.
Basically, it's exactly like you were talking about with that killing whatever. It's kind of like doing the kids show thing, huh?
Yeah, I'm like, no, not again. But after like a couple sentences, I'm like, oh, so that's how you build a campfire. So I was actually learning stuff. So I'm like, okay, that was useful. That's fine. I wasn't like absorbed in the story because I'm just watching her camping. So it wasn't really much to cut away from. And they kind of fit it in okay. It wasn't like raw and cut away and she's a badger because of this, then come back and just raw. It was just she picked up a pine cone and they're like, explain the pine cone. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. So they explained how to make a campfire, and I'm like, I know how to make a campfire now. Then after they explained it, then she set one up. So I'm like, they kind of could have just cut to the part where she was already done. But so she set that up, and I'm like, oh, okay. So now he explained it, and then I actually saw it like actually being done. So I'm like, nah, I really know. Then something happened again, and she walked back up to the building, and the girl is no longer on the bench. She's like down at the corner of the building on the ground, still asleep. I'm like, she's having a really good nap, I guess. So then, what was it? It gets dark, and she's like, oh crap, it's dark. So she pulls out a flashlight or a lantern. That's what she pulls out a lantern. And as she lifts the lantern up, because it's been a while, so like it went from like sunset to like nighttime. So then she walks out and she was like, I wonder where that girl is. And she looked and she's like, oh, okay, the girl left. And I'm like, okay, cool. I was kind of worried about her too. Then she lights the lantern and lifts it up, and the girl is right in her face, staring at her, crying. She freaks out. She's like, ah, and runs to the camp. The girl's behind her like, ah, don't leave me.
Oh God!
They both end up at the camp, and she's kind of sitting there like crying and like, oh, could you help me? And she's like, I just moved to the city, and somebody told me that you could see a nice view of the of Mount Fuji, and I got here and it was covered by clouds, so I couldn't see it. It was a stupid thing, and then I fell asleep, and now I don't know how to get back home. So then she's like, well, do you have a cell phone? She's like, oh, cell phone. She's like, I don't have my cell phone. And then she's like, what about this? And then like, so basically she's stuck. And then as she's like crying and like trying to ask for stuff, her stomach's just like raw. So she's like, would you like one of these? And she's like, oh, okay. And then she starts to cook. She has cups of ramen with her. So then the other the camper starts cooking, and she has a campfire, but then she also has this like little like cooking contraption. It's like a pot and like a little gas burner under it. And like me looking at it, I'm like, I don't know what that thing is. And then she turns it on, I'm like, oh, it's a stove, I guess, camping stove. I'm like, that's kind of cool. And the other girl's like, why don't you use a pot and cook it over the campfire? Why are you using that? And she's like, well, then it'll burn my pot and it'll get soot all over it. And I'm like, it's like me and the other girl at the same time are like, oh.
Oh, good lord.
So she makes food for both of them, and the other girl, like it's curry ramen, which I'm like, I've never heard of that combination to begin with, and then I've never heard of it as an instant thing. So I'm like, that's interesting. So then she's like, just devouring it, and I'm like, she was very hungry. And then, the clouds part away from Mount Fuji, and they both were like, it's so amazing. And a couple other things happen, and then she's like, I remember my sister's phone number. So then they call her sister. The sister comes and picks up the other girl. They leave. Before they actually leave completely, she runs back. She's like, here's my phone number. We should go camping again. And then she leaves. And the sister was like, thank you for taking care of my silly little sister. Here's a giant bag of kiwi. And then they leave. I'm like, well, she replaced the ramen that she gave to the girl. But
It's a giant bag.
yeah, I'm like, that was odd.
You know what? There is nothing about what you said that wasn't so far in this entirety of what it is that you have watched. Because, oh my, oh my. I don't even. So basically, this is as about laid back as you could possibly get for an anime. There's really pretty much no conflict, no big secret on what's going on or how things are happening. And the biggest people who are going to have an interest in this are people who don't really ever go camping, so they kind of get an idea about what it takes to go camping.
I guess.
I mean, that's kind of what I see in this. I'm just like, if you really want to know what camping is all about, learning a little bit about what happens, here you go. Have fun. Yeah. Enjoy a nice, relaxing camp. Like, no storms, no, they were too far away from civilization. They were hungry and didn't have any food. No, none of that. No.
Like, you need food, just walk up to the gift shop and find some food.
Get some food. If you remember the number of how do you get home, just go up there, let them know. Like, oh my god. I don't even know. I don't even.
So, at the very beginning of the show, they kind of did like a flash forward where they basically show a scene of all of the friends that they're going to meet all camping together. So I was like, okay, cool. And then it kind of cut back to just one character and like her camping experience. So what I'm thinking they're going to do is, because I think there's 5 characters total, they're going to cut to like each one and have like a day in their life and camping and how they kind of all meet each other. And then like the second half will just be their little laid back adventures. But I'm fine with that. I like it. It's like the most laid back show in history.
Yep. I'm pretty sure your assumption would be right, and I would be so incredibly bored with it. I would find myself skipping just to see if something happened. Are they camp? Yep, still camping. Yep. Nope. Well, it's still good. Nope. Yep. Everything's fine. Nope. Oh, they're done. Okay. Watch a whole episode in like 2 minutes.
Yeah. So, yeah. I really like the show, and I'm going to continue it. It is, I think, on Crunchyroll. So, if anybody wants a chill show, there is one right there.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember seeing it there. And I remember going, yep, nope.
All right. Well, that was it for our initial thoughts on the winter anime for 2018. There are quite a few shows that I will continue. And there's some shows that you can finally discover on Prime.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Next episode, we will be back for our upcoming thoughts.
Yeah, let's say initial thoughts for the next season.
Yeah, for the spring season. This year, there are going to be some really high-profile sequels. So I am excited, very, very excited to see like what's going to be coming out next. Then after that, we'll conclude this season. So we shall see how this season goes.
Yeah, hopefully no more lizardmen.
Yep. So yeah, we will be back at the end of next month for the next episode. And as always, this has been Big D and Shade from Takoyaki Anime, and we will see y'all next time. Bye. Cool. All right.
Okay.
Fall season of 2017 that we have finished, and our final thoughts about them.
You know, mostly me, but you know, occasionally you too.
Yeah, every now and then I watch a couple shows.
I feel like Amazon's just that nosy neighbor that just butted into this wonderful like house party that everyone was having just because the noise was